Welcome to the 440th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. I messed up last week. I think I said the wrong number. I was an episode behind, whatever. So we're at 440. This is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30-ish minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. Lately, I've been doing a lot of Silver Age DC comics, usually the ones with like the weird, wacky covers where someone dies or Superman's just a big jerk or something, and then they explain it all and it all makes sense somehow. And I think it's very clever the way they do these workarounds on these covers. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/yourmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or four. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. You can also buy past Off My Mind episodes on the Patreon, but go online, use a web browser. If you use the iOS app, you have to pay 30% extra or some whatever markup. What is happening this week? This week, the movie is Send Help. I wasn't sure what to think about this. It's like, is this a love story? It's not a love story. Is it what is Survive? Is this a horror story? Is Sam Raimi directing? What's going on? So you get to hear about that. I enjoyed it. I'm just going to say that right away. We have Wonder Man. So Wonder Man. All episodes dropped of Wonder Man, but we're only going to do the first episode, at least this week. My feeling is I don't want to just blow through it and then we forget about it because, maybe it's not the same in comparison, but you look at Echo, no one talked about that. But I don't think we should just plow through these movies or these shows and then, because then there's nothing else. So, I may double up when Fallout ends in a couple of weeks or whatever. But so we got one Wonder Man, we got one Hijack, we got one Fallout, and we got comics and news. So let's get to it. I did not see a whole lot of news this week. I could be wrong. There was a trailer for Daredevil Born Again, another teaser, because that's coming up in a couple months, I think. And what I have to say, first of all, it was kind of a weird trailer with it's playing music and then the music stops and it's wait, did it skip? Did something happen? And then music starts up and then it stops, and so it was kind of this weird, not really pacing, but it was kind of all over the place. And there's some weird flashes, we got Kingpin again, and part of me is do we have to have Kingpin again? Is this the Daredevil and Kingpin show? Can it be someone else? But I get that, Kingpin's such a big part of this. And, Vince D'Onofrio, he does a great job, amazing job. But sometimes but the character sometimes just man, it's you're just that sad little boy. Just go to a playground, do something fun. I feel like something bad is going to happen to Matt. With his identity is what's Kingpin going to do? But what I'm really excited about, and it's so weird. As soon as I see Kristen Ritter, as soon as you see Jessica Jones, I'm yes. And I don't know if it's just because she's a badass character, and she's also definitely a flawed character, and so I kind of like that, but I think she's just so cool, and something with the way how Kristen Ritter plays her and everything. So I'm looking forward to seeing what she has to bring, what she's going to be doing. And there's also questions what does this mean? Is there a Luke Cage in this? Because it is the Netflix universe, but is it the Netflix universe, or is it just are we still talking sort of multiverse where what we saw it kind of held, but did it really? Did it everything? Because one thing I heard while I'm speaking about this, I just remembered I saw something that they might be retconning the hand. Like, and I'm trying to think, it's like, what happened with the hand? Or, maybe it was the origin of the hand or something. So who knows? And when we get to this point, I'm just like, do what you need to do. Don't do anything like major. If you have to make changes or tweak things, but just tell good stories and make it cool. Because when you look, they do this all the time in the comics. Things get retconned all the time, and we're just like, okay, whatever. You just look the other way or just keep going. And while the show might feel a little tighter than the comics, it's still kind of the same thing. So if they have to make some change for whatever reason, or maybe they're like, oh, we shouldn't have done that. Oops. Then just whatever, go with the flow and just just don't change it big time. If it's something, whatever. So we'll see what they're going to do with that. Let's see. There's some rumors. Of course, let's just get some of these out of the way. Like Black Panther 3. I don't know anything about this, but one of the things they're saying is it looks like Black Panther or whatever, they may be dealing with like aliens and setting up a cosmic arc or whatever, cosmic saga for the MCU. And I'm just like, oh, really? But it's like, we've had aliens. We had the Chitauri. We got Thanos and Guardians of the Galaxy. We've seen all the space stuff. So I don't know. But then I saw an article. It was like fan favorite villain or most demanded villain or something like that. Rumor coming. Of course, it's a rumor coming to Marvel, whatever. And when I saw this, I was like, demanded villain, or I was like, who are you talking about? And they're talking about friggin' Annihilus. Who is demanding Annihilus? Do people like Annihilus? I think he's such a dork. He's such a, he's an insect. How's that cool? He's like an insect in an armor. I don't even know what he is. I don't care about Annihilus. I mean, if you've ever listened to like the secret podcast episodes where there was one where there's a what if issue I talked about recently. Like, what if the Invisible Woman had died? And I did my version of Annihilus, and it's just a whiny, nasally voice, because that's how I envision Annihilus talking. And yeah, I don't know. Another rumor, different, is Steve Rogers, and there's a couple conflicting things, and some people are saying, like, again, who knows where these rumors are coming from? What are these sources? And whatever. But apparently, maybe, possibly, Steve Rogers will be living on Fantastic Four's Earth. I think it's 828. And one thing is, they're like, oh, the Fantastic Four is going to ask him to come with him because they have to. There's something happening on the Earth, an incursion or something. So they need to go to 616 Earth. Why? How do they even know that that's where they should go? And they asked Captain America to go with them because that way, since he's from there, do they know that? Is it like advertised? They're like, hey, come with us, so then they'll believe us that we're here, that we need help, and we're not trying to take over. I don't know. But then there's another thing also. I don't know. But what it comes down to is, because what I brought to this, we know Steve Rogers will return. Is this the same Steve Rogers that we've seen before? We don't know that for a fact. This could be a Steve Rogers from an alternate Earth. The other thing, and I feel like I could go on like a whole, like off of my tangent or whatever with this, is because it's time travel. If Steve Rogers did go in the past, he's not in. Did he go into the 616 past? Because by doing that, he's changing history. Because we saw like Agent Carter, and we know things are happening, and it's like, it's not like Steve Rogers has been secretly with Peggy Carter all this time, and just hiding in the shadows. Did he just like totally retire being Captain America after he went back? And because we saw Peggy Carter's funeral was Steve. I think someone tried saying, oh, one of the pallbearers was actually old man Steve Rogers, but no one knew who he was or something like that. But it's like, how could you not know if they were together all this time? And like, why wouldn't Sharon, was she even, I forget if she was Agent 13 was Sharon. Was that her name? But no one's going to know who Peggy's like married to, and I don't know. So we'll see. Sex criminals. So Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky did this comic at Image Comics, and it was weird. It was bonkers. It was clever. Something different. Basically, there's this woman who I don't know who we meet first, but when she has sex, it freezes time temporarily. And then there's this dude, when he has sex, it freezes time temporarily. So they find each other or something, I forget exactly how it's set up, and they realize, hey, when we have sex, the time stops everywhere. What are we going to do about this? What can we do about this? Let's rob banks. So then you have to think about it. It's like, okay, where are they at that they're going to do this? And then it's like, are you going to be like parked in the alley somewhere, and it's going to start going, and then like, hey, boom, whoa, here we go. Let's run in the bank now. And if you do that, do you bother to get dressed, or it's like, okay, wait, we got to, time is literally money. We only have so much time. I don't even remember how long. If it is, it's time freeze for 20 minutes, an hour, so they're going to have to run in, grab what they need to grab. And, they may have to, where's the keys? How do we get in here? So, they got to do what they got to do, grab as much as they can, and then run out. Sure, once, if it's 20 minutes or what, they could say, okay, whew, are you okay now? Should we go again so we pick up some more stuff? I just wonder how graphic is this going to be, because that's the tricky part. It's like, obviously this is not going to be like a family show, and it's not going to be like a kid's show. So, yeah, I'm curious about that. Kumail Nanjian is involved. I think he's like one of the writers for it, and he's going to be in it. I think his wife is a showrunner. I don't remember what I heard. I like him. He's good. He's funny. But sometimes, I don't know, because we just saw him on Fallout, and I don't know if it was him or if it's a character. I don't think we were supposed to like the character, but I don't know. And because I also look at him like on, was he on was it Obi-Wan? Or no, was it Obi-Wan? Maybe it was Obi-Wan. He was on he was a Jedi, on something, and he was just kind of like, I don't want to say smarmy or whatever, but it's almost like this. It's almost like the same character. And then he was in Eternals, right? And I barely remember anything from Eternals. I got to watch. I don't. Someday I'll watch that again, but we'll see. I mean, but he's a funny guy. He's a good actor. So we'll see where that's going to go. Another rumor, dumb rumor. Joe Keery, who I know a lot of my students are like, oh, Joe Keery. There's a rumor he may be in a Marvel movie, which everyone's going to be in a Marvel movie at some point. And as things are progressing, Marvel Studios need to start looking. It's like, okay, we need to start casting more people. We need to start. What can we do? What can we develop? But I guess there's a rumor like, oh, he might be in, and this is why it's a dumb rumor, and maybe there's something to it, but I feel like it's just, let's make stuff up. So the rumor that I just saw, and who knows what other rumors there are, and I don't know if I saw like, oh, update or promising, like I don't know if this was mentioned before, because I hadn't seen anything about him before, but there's the rumor is he might be in Spider-Man Brand New Day. And he might be Harry Osborn. And so he'll be with Sadie Sink, acting with Sadie Sink again. Reunion, we'll see. I don't know. Another rumor, see, this is all the news. It's just all friggin' rumors. There's a rumor that Wanda Maximoff might get a solo movie after like Secret Wars. And what I questioned this rumor because where, every time I've seen so many interviews. So, what's her name? Olsen, I'm totally drawing a blank. But when are you going to be in? Are you going to be in this next Marvel? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know. And it just sounds like she's been wanting to do something, and there's just been like no contact. Like she has no idea what she's going to do next. So it's like, have they been purposely whatever? Why are they like avoiding using, Wanda or Scarlet Witch? We have this Vision quest coming up. Is she not going to be in that? And then all of a sudden, like, okay, we've been kind of ignoring you, for the past few years. We're going to give you your own movie now. I mean, yeah, that'd be cool, but I don't know. I don't buy it. Sony, speaking of Marvel, it sounds like they might be open to start letting Marvel use more of the Spider-Man related characters, because the way to deal is Sony has the rights to Spider-Man and Spider-Man adjacent characters. So that includes like Madam Web, Morbius, and all Craven, all these movies that have bombed, unfortunately. So they're like, well, maybe we should start letting Marvel use these characters, put them in their movies. Because I'm assuming the reason they would do that is, which is so silly that this is what it comes down to, is Sony would get a piece of that. They would get some sort of compensation to let Marvel use Marvel characters because they have the movie rights to them. I mean, but you look at that, Sony's doing Spider-Man movies, but they're doing it with Marvel Studios. The Spider-Man movies are amazing, no pun intended, literally no pun intended. I did not plan that. The Spider-Man movies are great. The other movies, man, there's like so much potential, and they just fall flat. And I don't understand it. I do not know. Another, I guess, rumor, like I said, everything's rumor. Ryan Reynolds might be working on Deadpool 4. And where I question this is because he recently said that after Deadpool and Wolverine that he doesn't really see doing like another full-on Deadpool movie right away, because you would have to come up with some big tragedy or story, because you can't have Deadpool being happy. He has to do something to try to redeem himself, do something, fight for something. Otherwise, like what's the point type of thing. And he's also, it's been said that, he wants to spend time with, he wants to be there for his kids when they come home from school or whatever. And doing these movies, he has to fly here or there. He's gone for a while. Who knows? I don't know. And because it sounded like he'll like, yeah, I'll pop into Doomsday or Secret Wars or whatever, because it's not like he's carrying the whole movie. So it's not like he has to be there from beginning to end. Maybe, I don't know. So I'm always down for more Ryan Reynolds. I don't debate about this. So send help. This movie we're going to talk about. I'm going to mention this in the news, just in case you don't listen to the end part yet. But I saw like talk of like mid-credit scene. There's no mid-credit scenes, because people are always debating. It's like, oh, should I stick around? There's ways. You can easily look up, like so many people make articles. Are there mid credits? Are there after credits? There's none. Basically, I'll tell you right now what there. And this is not a big spoiler or anything. It's not a scene. There is nothing there. What they're talking about is mid-credit scene. It's like schematics of different. This is how you make a raft. This is how you make this. It's just like blueprints for survival tools or stuff. And it's like while the credits are rolling, because I'm sitting there watching a movie, because there's an app called After Credits, and sometimes it's usually updated pretty quickly. Someone updates it, and I saw it's like, oh, there's a mid-credit scene, so you can spoil it, you can click and see what it is, but I was like, I don't want to spoil it, of course, heck no, I don't want that. So I'm watching and I'm like, wait, is there going to be anything? And so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna click it and glance real fast. And then I saw what it was. I was like, this is whatever. So just so you know, and because I saw like a couple posts on, about talking about mid credits, like one person like said end credits. It's like, no, there's nothing at the end, and it's not a mid credit scene. It's just stuff happening during the credits, and it's not even a scene. It's just blueprints, like images. Then the last bit of news. So we have Strangers Chapter 3 coming next week. And Madeline Petch, who, I adore, the question was, what is she going to do next? Because, she played a big role in doing this reboot. Like, who would have thought that we would get 3 The Strangers movies, back to back to back. And I've been enjoying them. I maybe not everyone has, but I am so excited. I'm so looking forward to this third movie. And I think it would be really cool to watch them all, like, maybe not all together, like binge, because that's a lot for me to binge. But I'm really looking forward to just having this complete story arc, whatever. So I saw an interview, and someone was asking, like, what are you going to do next? Are you looking at, since she played such a role in helping, pushing this or whatever, is she going to reboot anything else or do anything? And she was talking about, there's something else that she wanted to do, but she's kind of she's working on making this happen. Nothing is set, but there's another horror reboot that she wants to try to make happen, and it's a 70s movie, and she doesn't, obviously it's not going to say anything, but it's something that hasn't been rebooted yet. And she said that she saw it recently, or someone showed it to her recently, and she's like, whoa, I want to make this. And it's like, why hasn't this been happened yet? So if you think about it, like something from the 70s that hasn't been rebooted, I mean, like the first thing that comes to my mind is Phantasm. Because there's never been a reboot. You've had, I don't even know how many Phantasm movies. I know there's been at least 2, maybe 3, but they've never like rebooted. It's just been, whatever. Although what can you really do with it? I mean, maybe go back more into the background, the story or something. I don't know, but I'm trying to think what else is it, because it's not like you can't be The Exorcist, because there's been so much. It's not like Amityville Horror, because there's been so many. It's definitely not like Halloween, and it's not going to be The Shining. So it's like, what could it be? So we'll have to think about that. If you have any ideas, because I haven't. I mean, obviously you can look at horror movies from the 70s, but if you have any ideas, let me know. Because, whatever it is, I'm definitely going to watch. And whatever I have to talk about, hopefully you won't be watching, but hopefully you'll be listening. But that is going to be the news for the week. Wah, wah, wah. Horrible segue. All right, comic books. At Image Comics, I don't think I read anything. Was there? I think I read Red Coat last week, because I for whatever reason, I've been behind on those. I don't think there's anything else. Red Coat was good. Basically, what I'll say, I'm also hesitant to say it because I feel like it's Simon's going to have to deal with. Simon Pure has kind of tried to settle down. He's got a family. Albert Einstein comes and visits him because they had a run-in when he was younger, and then it turns out that there's another, I guess you could say, threat coming, and that's all I'm going to say. So, yeah, I don't want to spoil anything. And again, if you're not listening, read it. Even though it's been out for a week, you should definitely be reading Red Coat. It's so good. Kaya 33 came out. I'm just so behind on that. I don't even know. And the only other thing, I think G.I. Joe came out. G.I. Joe number 18. So this is an issue with Roadblock. It's so weird when I think about this, because I guess we haven't had Roadblock in this like new reboot G.I. Joe, right? Because when you read it, it's like oh, Roadblock's here, but it's like, wait a minute, no, we haven't had Roadblock. So we find out about him, where he's at, and it's interesting. The only thing that felt a little weird is, okay, so you see on the cover, he's got like a food truck, and he's he was a soldier before, and he's got this food truck, and he's in his communities. He's just having such a blast. He's making food, making people happy. Then Tomas and Zaymot come, and, in their business suits, and they want him. They want to launch this like chain of food trucks and restaurants, and they want him to be the face of it and everything. And he's kind of like, nah. But we've seen Zomot and Zaymot. Tomac, Zaymot. I can't even say their names. Anything I think of it doesn't sound right. Tomax and Zaymot. That's it. I could sit here like for the rest of the podcast trying to keep saying the same thing or whatever. We saw them in the Destro miniseries, and because they had like their own arms business, whatever weapons thing, but they also have food truck, which I'm sure as they probably have business ventures everywhere. It seemed kind of weird because it felt like it's like I'm assuming this is the same version, same characters. It's the same universe from what we saw before, but it was a little weird. But I enjoyed that. Then that was it that I read because I think there's a Thundercats that came out, but I'm behind on that. I don't know if I'm ever going to get caught up on that. I would like to, but at Marvel we had 1776 #3. And I'm still enjoying this. Like the big elephant in the room or whatever. It's like they're doing all this stuff in the past. Something has to happen. Everyone has to forget what they're doing because we have a group of like essentially Avengers going in the past trying to stop Morgan Le Fay from helping England win the war or whatever. But it's got to the point they're all under these illusions. But then like Captain America and Spider-Man, they're like, oh, here we are in costume. Iron Man goes to talk to Ben Franklin, and then he's like, all right, I got this armored suit. So they're doing all this stuff, and yeah, and then it gets to the point where I don't know if Clea lifted a spell, or she basically I think it was Clea. I mean, she's the only one. I don't think it was Morgan Clea gives Spider-Man like the sight, so he can see because he doesn't want to harm anyone. He doesn't want to do anything drastic, even though they're like in a war, and she's like, was it Clea? I mean, it's the only one it could be. But it's like, you can't save everyone. So he gets the sight so he can see who is actually supposed to die and, who will live. And, yeah, so it's pretty gruesome, I guess, if you think about that. And then he does something kind of crazy, too. Then we got the Amazing Spider-Man Annual. So we had this guy, what was his name, Rapid? He I don't remember how he got his powers. I don't think it was with the Infinity Stone, but he can kind of like slow down time and almost stop time and stuff like that. But it turns out he's still, he's putting on his costume and doing what he can to save people. But one, he has a job and he has a family, so he's finding a hard time to he's like, I can't really go out and patrol, or how do I find time for that? But also, it's been getting harder for him to stop time for long periods of time. And then we have Screwball, which I'm not a big fan of Screwball. So Screwball is a villain. She's almost like Arcade, but mobile, whatever. She has like her YouTube channel or whatever, view channel. I don't know what they call it here. She's like, oh, I'm going to put up a challenge for Spider-Man and viewers. And then it's like, hey, chat, what do you think of this? It's like all this cringy stuff. And so she's setting all this stuff up. And it's like, oh, who cares if people die? Who cares if now you are officially a murderer or a murderer? You're a multi-murderer. So, yeah. But that was the whole, to do a whole annual on this. And, no offense to Rapid, I don't care about him because I'm not invested in. There was DN 2099 #2. I'm not reading that. There was Iron Man #1. And this is, what's it saying on the back cover? Superstar Joshua Williamson and Legacy Stormbreaker Carmen Canero. They're doing Iron Man. It's okay. It is so much better than some of the Iron Man we've had recently. I haven't been enjoying the Iron Man comics. The I don't know if it was the last one. It almost seemed like, okay, this might be on track, and then it just didn't wasn't interesting. The West Coast Avengers, I like that, but as we had West Coast Avengers and we got that other, I don't even know what the Iron Man was called. The only thing that was good about the Iron Man is they're bringing in Melinda May, from Agents of Shield, her comic book counterpart. But it's just like, where are these going? And there's a lot of like, oh, Tony Stark's getting stripped down, he's losing a company, and this and that, and oh no, and it's almost like, do writers not know what to do with Tony Stark? Because you have to take everything away, so he has to rebuild. It seems like that's how many times does that happen? Oh no, I gotta build a new costume or new costume. I gotta build a new suit. I'm in a cave. I gotta do that, and it's just we've seen that so many times. And I don't know if it's a matter of, okay, Tony has some crazy powerful suits. He has like 100 suits. Let's take them away. So, we have something for him to do, like, to build up everything and have a story to tell. I don't know. But here, he's got his Stark Industries, Enterprise, whatever it's called. And we basically have Madame Mask. She's working with AIM, right? And she's causing some problems. And Tony's sort of affected by it. It's sort of Tony Stark related, so obviously that's why he's going to be involved. I'm trying to think about it because we have Citizen V. It looks like, I'm trying to remember what he actually did in this comic, but it was fine. It was fine, but it was immensely better than what we've had recently. But it's still, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely going to be reading this. I mean, the other one, I think I skipped issues, but it was okay. Then Infernal Hulk #3. I am not loving this because I just want, I miss Peter David, Smart Hulk, Professor Hulk, whatever you want to call it. And now it's interesting. I mean, I will say that, there's an interesting hook here where I stopped reading the last run of Hulk. And there was I don't remember, not the adversary. It's like some big dude, whatever, took possession of the Hulk, and the Elder, I don't even know what he's called, and Bruce basically has been booted out of the Hulk, and this other evil dude is now doing all these horrifically evil things with Hulk's body and power. Bruce, meanwhile, is living a normal life with Betty. Betty was booted out. So neither one of them have powers. They're living, they're working, and they're trying to, just do the suburban life. Meanwhile, this Elder Hulk thing is just plowing through, just destroying stuff. One of the things that bothers me here, Betty's having a hard time dealing with the fact that she's had all this power and now she has nothing, and there's some it gets a little dark. It gets very dark, and it's just kind of weird. And I don't know necessarily where this comes from because I didn't read her appearance in the other whatever. But then what happens here? I will spoil. It's Iron Man, Tony Stark, and Reed Richards. They locate Bruce's secret life, because they're living under false names and all this stuff, and they're there's a Hulk here. We need you to help, and he's it's not me. I have nothing to do with it, and he's Bruce is you need to get out of my backyard before someone sees, and they're not even, and Tony's being such a jerk, and I don't know if he's just being a jerk to be a jerk because he is a jerk, or I almost felt are you trying to egg on Tony Stark or egg on Bruce Banner? Are you trying to get him to Hulk out? He's not the Hulk. I mean, what do you think, that if he gets so angry, all of a sudden he's going to teleport to wherever this Elder thing is and take control somehow? Or because he's like, oh, I never thought that you would turn into a coward. It's like it was not his fault that he turned into Hulk. You can't blame him. I don't care if he made the bomb or whatever, the gamma bomb, but all he's ever wanted was to be left alone. And there's so many times where he couldn't control Hulk, and how many people were harmed and hurt. Now he is separate. He has a chance to just start over and live the life. He was robbed of everything, and it's not his fault. I don't know. So we'll see where it's going to go. Marvel Zombies. I guess this is the last issue. We have Null on the cover. I'm not a fan of Null, and it's a good ending. It felt a little rushed because Spider-Man is like kind of like the only one there, and Null comes and he's trying to fight him and everything. But then it just felt rushed. It's like, okay, we can end all this, we can save the day and everything. And I was like, wow, that happened. That's okay, it's done. I really enjoyed it in the beginning, and then it started fizzling a little bit, but it was good. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, number 42. It got to the point, it's like, what the heck is going on? One, they're fighting that stupid assessor. Man, I have to say this. I'm going to say this because when I was reading this, I kept thinking this. I hate this comic. I hated this issue. Almost angry that I was like trying to read this comic. And the only reason I was trying to read it is because Peter Parker's in this. It's not just, I've almost like written off Miles Morales or written off his comic. It has just not been good. I can't remember the last time I enjoyed a Miles Morales comic. There's been several different writers, so I'm not saying it's one writer that's doing this horrible job. And the writers probably have mandates. Like, this is the direction we're going. We're doing this, whatever. It's just, I'm just not enjoying it, and that just really bothers me because I really like the character. Who doesn't like? Everyone likes Miles Morales. But have not been enjoying the stories and the changes and the directions. It's just, and I do not understand why he has to constantly have, why does he have I just want to swear. Why does he have friggin' stupid vibranium suit? Why does he need that? Spider-Man does not. Miles Morales does not need a vibranium suit. He doesn't need a super suit or anything like that. And then he keeps getting these powers. Okay, give him Venom Blast. Cool. Give him the chameleon camouflage thing. Cool. He's got more things than Peter Parker has. Okay, awesome. Make him a little different. Give him an edge. And then, he's got a Venom sword that he could pull out. What the heck is that about? I've never seen a spider running around and making an energy sword to fight a centipede or whatever. What is going? And now he's got spider sense and he can sense danger and the room next door and all. What are you even doing? And I did an off mind about this, and I feel like they're just overcompensating so much. They're like the thought is, poor Miles Morales, he needs help. We need to give him more stuff. No, you don't. You just need to give him better stories. And then so we got Peter Parker here, and he's got his like new kind of space suit or whatever you want to call it. And then the vibranium suit is like busted. So Peter's going to try to jumpstart it because they don't have a vibranium suit manual. And then there's a part where I was like so confused because Spider-Man's suit, you can't see on the cover, Spider-Man's suit's like yellow and black. It's kind of like lit up. Miles Morales is like red and purple. But there's a part where like Spider-Man's fighting because it's yellow. And then wait, Spider-Man has a sword now too? And again, he talks about a Venom Blast. Like, what is going on? And a stupid assessor. Oh my God. Oh, jeez. Punisher, number 5. I just like it. It makes me never want to read a Miles Morales comic again, and I hate being so negative. If you are enjoying it, that makes me feel a little better. that someone, if there's lots of people, if it's just me, that is fine. I can live with that. It is not all about me. If there are people enjoying this comic, great. Then Marvel should keep doing what they're doing. But Punisher #5. This, holy crap! There's like something that happens here that I love. Basically, it comes down to there's a point where Frank, he gets in front of Kingpin. He has a confrontation, and Kingpin's blah blah blah, and something pretty amazing happens. But yeah, there's just like Punisher versus Tombstone, and Tombstone versus Kingpin, and all this stuff, and it gets to be messy, and it was. So then as I'm reading this, because it's like is this out of continuity? I mean, it must be, right? It's a Red Band Marvel comic, or at least the one the digital I read. So yeah, you should be reading this. I've been enjoying this series, and I like the Punisher as the character, whatever. I just haven't really been enjoying the comics because he's a jerk. He kills people. He's a murderer, basically. It's like, yay, yeah, I want to read that, but this has been good. Sorcerer Supreme #2. I'm a Wanda fan. I really like Scarlet Witch, but now we're at issue 2. After the Emperor Doom stuff, the cloak, the levitation, and the Eye Agamotto, they came to like Wanda. She has possession of them, so she's like, "Hey everyone, I'm the new Sorcerer Supreme because I got these tools." But then all the Vishanti or whatever the people are like, "Oh no, that's not the way it works. You can't just do that." There's a whole thing, and I forget if they proclaimed Agatha Harkness. Why would anyone do that? Agatha Harkness seems like the shadiest person like around. I would not trust her with anything. It's a wonder that they trusted her to babysit or be Franklin Richards' nanny, but maybe she tricked them. They didn't know that she was. I don't even know. So then the fact that Agatha's like make herself look young is like, is it all magic and you're just vain, right? Whatever. So there's a lot of like Agatha attacking Wanda's like, you shouldn't be the Sorcerer. I should be the Sorcerer Supreme, and Wanda's like, I don't care what you say. These things call to me, so I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to do the right thing that needs to be done. And it's just like, ugh. So and there's just a lot of like blah blah blah. So it was like hard to read through everything, but I'm curious where it's going to go. Then there's Strange Things #4. I didn't read that. Over at DC, I didn't read everything at DC. Obviously, if I'm going to be honest, we had Absolute Batman #16. We have more Batman and Wonder Woman. So we saw Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman last month, whatever. So they're teaming up against, basically, Bruce is feeling a little guilty because like all his friends are basically like his rogues gallery, but like Two-Face and Killer Croc and Riddler, they're all like his friends. They're all like getting affected, being churned. Like Killer Croc is like a big huge beast, and he I don't even know if he can talk or whatever. So all this stuff's happening, and Oswald, he kind of goes off on Bruce, because they all know he's Batman. They're like, oh, you saved Gotham, but you can't even save your friends, type of thing. So Bruce decides to call or just to summon Wonder Woman because he has the ability to summon her, like through a device that she gave him. And he's like, one of my friends is turning into a beast. Is there any way that you can help me? Is there any artifact or whatever thing? And they like have to go on a journey, and it's not really clear if they go to hell or Hades or whatever. But there's definitely like mention. I don't know at one point if they're talking about where she grew up or something. So yeah, we'll see if Batman can come up with anything. if he even survives. Oh, obviously he will. Then there's Absolute Wonder Woman. I forget what number came out. I always forget the numbers. And it's kind of nice because, there's like, at one point, what's nice, there's like this big gala celebration, and we see like Wonder Woman like in a gown, and it's kind of, it's an interesting visual because, she's so tall, which as she should be because she's an Amazon, and, seeing her, her massive, I wouldn't say massive, but seeing her like in this suit, it's like a nice touch that, because, a lot of times, I mean, even I'll say this, I love John Byrne's art. I love John Byrne's, his stuff from the 80s, but his Wonder Woman, it's almost like, she had no muscles. She was like the female comic physique type of thing. And here, she looks like, she could, this Wonder Woman looks like she could like knock a truck into like last week or whatever. That makes no sense, but that's all I could come up with. There's other stuff that happens, and you can see on the cover, you got Zatanna. So we got Zatanna, Absolute Zatanna, and Absolute Suicide Squad. So there's going to be some things going on here. Superman 34. I was struggling to read this. Does it say it's a KO tie-in? Maybe it doesn't. No, it does say it's a KO, DC KO. But this is also dealing with stuff with the, well, I guess it all goes back to Darkseid, because we have like the evil Legion of Superheroes, and we have the Time Trapper, Doomsday, and there's like all the stuff going down, and even though there's Superboy Prime and Lois, and it just, I started struggling. I'm just like, I just want to be done reading this comic, and yeah. So then with that, I was like, I don't know if I really want to read more, because then I'm just going to start recording the podcast. So Justice League Unlimited came out. This is continuing. Was it like what was it? The top, the Deadly 10, or the Duo 10, or not Duo, the Dirty Dozen. And so I'm assuming this is continuing with the time displaced heroes and their mission that they're on, or something like that. I don't know. We had Absolute Flash 11. I was like, okay, the Flash 29. Maybe it's time I check in with what's going on. And I started reading it. I can't remember the last time I read Flash. So if this is 29, it might have been like issue 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know. And here I was like, oh man, I have no idea what's going on. Bart is apparently injured, or something was going on, and Wally goes into the past or something like that. He had to protect Barry Allen, because he has to make sure Barry Allen becomes the Flash, because if Barry doesn't become the Flash, then Bart doesn't get his powers, and I don't even know. But then he's like, well, why do I still have my powers? Then I was like, I don't know what's happening. And there was Detective Comics 1105. So we still have Batman. He's still dealing with the stuff that he has, the toxin or the whatever thing. He's wearing that suit, and he's trying to get to the bottom of this dude, the Lion. Is that what his name is? And we see some like not necessarily his origin, but like where he came from, and the fact that he has like a connection to Bruce Wayne. And so it's interesting. I feel like this is kind of going on for a while. I'm losing a little bit of interest, but Michael Jannon's art is amazing. His Robin does seem a little young, because it's like, and we're looking at it, it's like, wait, that's Damian, right? And it's a cool design, but I feel like Damian has aged a little recently, but then now they've kind of de-aged him, which is okay with me, because I feel like he should be. But yeah, because it started off, he used to be 10 years old. Now he's like, no, he's like 13 or whatever. They've given him some age, which I have issues with, because you can't age that much. If Damian's going to be around, 20 years, Damian is still going to be Robin, most likely, maybe. So I don't know. And then that was all I read. There is DC KO, The Kids Are All Right. And I looked at this cover and with the title, I'm like, this is probably gonna be like uber cheesy. I could be wrong. I don't even know. See, I think it was Jeremy Adams wrote it. And yeah, so maybe I should check it out, but I didn't. There was a Green Lantern 31. I should have read this, but I think this is also by Jeremy Adams. I just been so on the fence with Green Lantern. I think it's this regular Green Lantern, right? Not Absolute. And that's it. That's all I read, because there was a Justice League Red, I think, and I think that might be it. I think I said Absolute Martian Manhunter, right? I'm so far behind, and I want to read that someday. But that is going to be comics for the week. Okay, let's talk Fallout Season 2, Episode 6, The Other Player. And what's interesting, I really like where this season, how it's moving along and everything, and what the developments and everything. What I'm getting a little concerned now that I think about it, so this is episode 6. There's 2 more episodes after this. Yes, it's a continuing story, but I guess, we're building up towards, the bombs going off and everything like that. But I guess technically we don't have to get there yet, because the way first season. But also first season had kind of like a good ending. And like when season 1 ended, it's like that could have been the end of the story. There were cliffhangers or whatever like that. So I don't know if everything is gonna like come to a head and like meet up. I guess we're getting there. Yeah, because I'm thinking like Maximus and Thaddeus. It's like where are they going? I think it was like last episode they're hardly even in it, and this one they weren't in it too much, but then they do appear. So yeah, it's interesting that we're almost done. And this is the problem with the short seasons. An 8-episode season, even a 10-episode season, I mean, they're not much. And that's why, back in the day, we used to get 24 episodes. And, it's crazy to think about that. And, you could complain, like, well, the quality wasn't the same or wasn't there. Most of us, we didn't complain. Yeah, I was about to say, like The Flash, it was, was it 9 seasons? But yeah, sometimes the quality wasn't great. But we had entertainment week after week, and it's But again, what we're getting is really good. So let's see where we're at. So it starts off. There's like a conference room. We see this guy like eating a burger. It was like weird. It's obviously a Vault-Tec thing. He's giving a presentation to like a 5 megaton blast would look like over Los Angeles. And so there's like like a picture of what the mushroom cloud looks like. And he's like marketing thinks a 10 megaton blast will look better for the billboards. And there's like another Vault-Tec project manager. And she's like, but it won't be a 10 megaton blast. It'll be multiple 5 megaton blasts. And so then we see, it's like, oh, they're presenting the Barb. So they're showing these like mock-up images of, these explosions. And she's like, obviously the first guy's like, it will be multiple blasts for Los Angeles, but our design team thinks that will look too busy, just a cacophony of puff clouds. And then there's another presentation. This other dude shows her like this device. And he's like, the bad news is our water chips have a 30% fail rate. Which we're seeing that they're struggling. Vault 33, whatever they're struggling with water. He's like, the good news is we'll know which ones failed before installation, so we get to choose who runs out of water. Which is like, okay, that's morbid, disturbing. And she's just like silently taking all this in, kind of smiling and nodding. And he's like, do you have any preferences? It's like, wow. And then this other guy says that their internal early alert system gives them, at minimum, 30 minutes from notice to ignition in downtown Los Angeles. He's like, we'd be crazy not to offer specialized freeway lanes for our premium customers. He's like, I mean, that's just money on the table right there. And Barb, she looks kind of exasperated. So, but I'm thinking about that. You're going to build special lanes for a premium. So how is it going to be blocked off normally? If everyone's scrambling, there's a bomb going off or whatever. And in people, it's like, okay, this lane is only for premium people. They can rush to get to their vaults or whatever. It's very disturbing that that they're making like money off of like trying to end the world. Then the robber house decoy is there, and Hank like knocks and comes in. He like whispers to Barb, and I catch this at first because so when Barb's doing this, there's like a secretary like typing up the notes and everything. He whispers Barb. He's like, I asked Betty if I could take notes on this one, and then he like sits there. I didn't realize till later because it was a young woman. This was Betty, who is the overseer in the vault. So I was like, I didn't see that. Because, she was thought out early and she's been living there, so she grew older. He sits there, house decoy. He motions to his briefcase. He's like, so here it is. He opens the case. Robco presents the automated man. Spent a lot of time trying to make my machines more lifelike, but hey, works the other way around too. And Hank kind of like stands from his desk to try to, look at it. And it's like the neck device in the case. Barb kind of like side-eye glares at him and, he sits back down. She says, Mr. House, Vault-Tec and Robco have always had a special arrangement. You have multiple vaults to do as you wish. If this is research you'd like to pursue in the vaults, he's like, you must have missed a telegram. You're paying me for this. In exchange, I get cold fusion to power my little project in Vegas. And she kind of like pauses for a sec. And she's like, and what project is that? And he looks at her. He's like, might be above your pay grade. You'll find out about it after the bomb drops, I guess. And Hank, he stares at the neck device thing because that's what he's going to become obsessed with in his future and the show's present. Barb, like later, she like smiles and closes the blinds in the conference room when she's alone. She sits and she thinks. She looks at a picture of like Hank and her kids and she sheds a tear because she's got to realize like this is horrible. What they're doing. Then Vegas and the present, quote unquote present, Ghoul is still impaled on a pole when Lucy knocked him out the window, and he can't get free. So he like reaches for his satchel and like the drugs are there because if he doesn't have these drugs, he's gonna zombie out or whatever. So he tries asking a passerby for help, but he just ignores him. Then Dogmeat is there and barks. So Gould's like, fetch me that satchel. And he just like sits there. Dog's so cute. I love him. Then he Dogmeat kind of like moves. He like sniffs past the vials and grabs his hat. He's like, I don't need the fudging hat. I need the satchel. And he kind of like retches and convulses. Dogmeat just like runs off. He's like, you stupid fudging dog. And he like snarls a bit, and then he passes out. But then we see someone like walks by, and it turns into a flashback. So we see Cooper lying in a bed, like his head's like kind of hanging off. He's looking upside down. He's like, last night I was thinking about when I proposed to you, Catalina. We walked out to that romantic point. The rocks were all covered in seagull poop. It's like I'll never forget the sound it made when I took the knee. That thing I can't figure out. Were you a monster back then, or did you become one later? And Barb's like, they're in the hotel room. Barb's like, excuse me? He's like, war never changes. I know what you're planning to do, Barb. Then we see Lucy. So she got drugged, and she wakes up like in a bed. She sits up, and the room is furnished with some stuff. And there's like I think it was I don't remember if it was a yellow dress. There's a dress hanging like on a sort of like was it hanging? Now I'm thinking it was like on a mannequin dress hanging thing, but maybe it was just on a hanger. I don't remember now. But I'm pretty sure it was yellow. I don't know why I'm blanking out on this now. There's like a hair dryer. There's like other things. So she's clearly in the Vault-Tec building because you can see like the design, the shapes and color like outside of the scattered bits there. So she goes to the dress and then she sees her reflection. There's a mirror, and behind her she sees there's a note next to the box of sugar bombs because that's what Hank, her dad, has his nickname for her. So the note says, dial 0 when you're up, and signed Dad. So then she like kicks open the door, and she didn't like change anything, so she's still like her vault uniform, and it's still a little bloody and that. So she's not going to put the dress on. And she like looks around a corner. There's like two sort of like armored dudes walking up, and she grabs this big fire extinguisher. She's getting ready. She's at the corner. She's gonna I don't know how she's gonna take out two guys with a big fire extinguisher. So she's gonna have to lift it and swing it and try to knock. You can knock one out, but then how are you gonna knock two out at the same time? So she's like ready. As they walk by, then they turn and she lifts it, and one's like morning, and the other's like beautiful day, isn't it? And then he like kind of hits the guy in the shoulders, like, oh, kind of like, hey, you, whatever. They walk on, and Lucy's confused. And then what we see is they walk past her, they have the devices on her neck. So I'm trying to think, I don't think she really knows what those are. She continues walking, and she, she's carrying an extinguisher. Then she sees this other guy in like, khakis and like short sleeve, white short sleeve shirt and a tie. And there's a room full of people. And, two are being friendly at the coffee stations, like, after you. They're like, no, you. Then they see Lucy, like, would you like some coffee? And she looks, there's like all these people at desks, and they're making like, they're kind of moving, they're making the neck devices, but they're kind of moving like synchronized swimmers. One does something, they pass it off to the other, and they're all kind of going like in unison or whatever. She just like walks on, then she sees this door marked simulation. Inside there's like some swing music playing. So the room looks like a vault room, and Hank is in there like humming to himself in like the kitchen area. So he's like making breakfast. He sees Lucy, and they like stare at each other. And he has a table set for them. He taps a copy of All Quiet on the Western Front. He's like, we never got to discuss All Quiet, did we? And she kind of like frowns at him. She's like, are you serious, type of thing? And he's like, I guess we were waiting till after the wedding. He's like, that end? It was a humdinger, huh? And he like pulls out a chair. She's like, I didn't finish it. And Hank's like, that's okay. You've been busy. She's like, what do you think about the parts that you did read? And he like sits. She's like, I found it very upsetting. And he's like, well, can't disagree with you there. What aspects upset you the most? And she just like scoffs. Because she's like, are you seriously asking me about this? After everything he's done. And Hank's like, to me, the most troubling was that everyone seemed to be fighting over nothing. The French and the German. So what was the difference between them, really? I mean, other than the uniforms? It's like, I saw the same thing up on the surface. People fighting over the most petty things, like bottle caps. It's like, is that what you saw when you were there? And she just like kind of looks away because he's right. And he's like, but some things just never change. People just want to kill each other, don't they? I think it's the only way people feel safe. It's ironic, to feel safe, we have to hurt people, even kill them, because and then she comes up behind him, she holds like scissors to his throat. And he's like, it's crazy, the war instinct. And she's like, I'm bringing you back to Vault 33 for justice, for murdering the citizens of Shady Sands. You have the right to remain silent until the Vault Council assigns you a legal counsel. And he like nods. Then he's like, for a second there, I thought the wasteland had changed you. He's like, if you want to make this official, you should use, and he opens like a drawer. He's like, these handcuffs. And she like moves back, and he starts putting the cuffs on himself. She's like, what are you doing? He's like, surrendering. And Lucy's like, why? He's like, I did what I did to protect you. Maybe it came at too high a price, but there comes a time in a man's life when he has to take responsibility for what he's done. And for me, that time has come. You have come, Sugar Bomb, but please, just let me tell you what I've been doing here. She's like, no, we're going. He's like, just give me a chance. I think you'll call what I've been doing redemptive. She's like, scoffs. She's like, you mean brainwashing those people? And Hank's like, I wouldn't call it brainwashing. It's a very sophisticated process. And we've been having amazing results. She's like, I don't care. Let's go. He's like, you know how I get with all my little projects. Do you remember and I think he's like, do you remember, so something, potato batteries? I think it was like out in the field when she was 5. He's like, you had a little flashlight. You would run around recharging the batteries with your little, red flashlight. He's like, do you remember that? And she's just like, let's go. So Thaddeus, he exits the suit of armor that he was in. And, he falls like onto the sand. He asks Maximus, he's like, do we have to leave it? And Maximus like, they could have trackers in them. So, they'll come for it. He's like, the armor's more trouble than it's worth. So he's like sitting looking at the cold fusion thing in the little jar. And Thaddeus sits next to him. He's like, if that isn't a sacred remnant, I don't know what is. He's like, we got to sell it, huh? And Maximus is like, what? No. And Thaddeus is like, huh? And Maximus is like, absolutely not. What? We are not selling it. Thaddeus is like, yeah, right, of course, not going to sell it. We would, find a buyer, put out feelers. We do a trade. And Max is like, no, we're not giving it away, all right? And Thaddeus is like, a trade, you get something. So he's like, we're not just giving it away, you're going to get something. And they continue, and then they start walking. Later, they're sitting they made a fire, they're sitting there. Thaddeus says that, he's like, we definitely got to sell it. And Maximus is like, I told you. We'll give it to the right person, a good person. And Thaddeus is like, name a good person, seriously. And Max was like, that girl I met. And Thaddeus like, the Vault Dweller? And he's like, yeah. And then Thaddeus chuckles. He's like, yeah, I would be a good person too if I grew up on top of a mountain of food and supplies and some cozy little impenetrable home. Wouldn't look like this, that's for sure. Wouldn't have to steal and stab and fib all the time just to get by. But we sell it, guess what? Then we'll be rich and we'll have the means to be one of those good people you're talking about. And Max is like, where were you born again, Thaddeus? And he's like, the boneyard, at the poop hole side of the boneyard. Max was like, I guess I'm lucky. I'm the lucky one. I come here from, Shady Sands. I remember good people. And Thaddeus like, well, if you're the lucky one, we're both screwed. No offense. Maximus just laughs. So then in Vegas night, Ghoul's like, he's still there. He's like snarling, stuck on a pole. He's like twitching and fighting to change. He like talks himself. He's like saying his name. He's like, my name is Cooper. And it is weird because I think this is the first time Ghoul's ever referred to himself as Cooper. He's always been referred to as Ghoul. And even though that doesn't make sense because he is a ghoul and there are other ghouls, but he's like, my name is Cooper Howard. He like groans and snarls. He's like, I have a daughter. Her name is Janie Howard. She's alive. And he tries like pulling himself up, like reaching, pulling up, hand over hand, pulling himself up the pole. His hand reaches the top. More groaning, is like spacely, he slides back down the pole. Some time passes, and then this figure approaches him, like it's big, someone big. We don't see who it is. You can't see, it's just big shadow. Snaps the pole and it like drags him away. It kind of like ties him to sort of like a stretcher, gurneys, like dragging him. It's really like almost like a piece of fence, like iron or whatever, chain link fence. He's just like kind of like tied to it so he can drag him. Back in Vault 33, people are lined up to get into the cousin support group because that's what Reg is running, and he has all that food that they're like just gouging on it. So that's all the people want. And Reg like looks around. They're basically being gluttonous. Then it's like weird. He sees all people happy. He's sitting at piano, and then there's like a dance scene. Meanwhile, like Betty's approaching with some guards, but then it's like, okay, wait. That dancing didn't really happen. I guess it was like all in Reg's head because then he's just like ding ding, like he can't play the piano. So it's I don't know. Maybe he's just so happy. I don't know. The guards like bust in by order of Overseer Betty Pearson. The snack budget for the products of inbreeding support group has been rescinded, and the inbreeding support group has been dissolved. And Reg like tells them to like calm down because everyone's like what? So he tells them to calm down. He goes to the guard and he says. He's like, I want to talk to Betty. They step aside, and Betty's like right there. So she comes in the room. She's like, you've been ignoring my request to sit down with you, hiding from me. She's like, I'm sorry it's come to this, but for the good of the vault. And he's like, you know what? Fine. He's like, you can dissolve the inbreeding support group, but you can't take away our snack budget. And she's like, in my office now. And Red's like, no. She's like, we can have this conversation right here. She's like, we're running out of water and you're feeding people salty snacks. He's like, we're giving the people what they want. And she's like, we are working very hard on solving the water issue. What we need is time. And I'm sorry, but you don't get extra rations because of who your parents were. And Reg's like, actually, this is still America, so yes, you do. And he's like trying to work up the crowd, like yeah, right, come on, everything. He's like, we're down here because of who our parents were and who their parents were. Our ancestors put themselves first. And you know what? That worked out for them and for us. I'm not ashamed of that anymore. Betty's like, I understand. He's like, I don't think you do, Betty. He's like, you're from Vault 31. He's like, I know things are different there. You 31ers are just plumb different somehow. She's like, please listen to me. During the Weevil famine. He's like, we don't want to hear about the Weevil famine anymore. This other lady says, she's like, it feels good to hear someone finally say that out loud. And Betty's like, I see. And Reg's like, And he like reaches on top of this like huge cake, grabs a handful like Jello, shoves it in his mouth, and the room cheers. They're like, you showed her. It's like, really, dude? In Vault 32, Davy's looking for Woody. And Chet's like standing around with the baby eating a sandwich. And he's like, wait, because he's like, what about Woody? Because Davy's talking to this other guy who's like mopping or sweeping or something. Davy's like, I was meant to play checkers with him this morning. He's like, you want to know the truth? And Chet's like, yes, the truth, please. Davy's like, I don't even like checkers. He's like, I only play it because it seems to make Woody happy. Who doesn't want to make Woody happy? He's such a great guy. The guy mopping by them is like, if Woody's missing, we should bring it up with the overseer. And Dave like chuckles. He's like, good luck with that. And he's like, oh, sorry, Chet. I know she's your wife, but sometimes she can. And Chet's like, excuse me, Davey, she's not my wife. And Dave's like, I'm sorry, fiance. And he like chuckles. And he's like, the other guy's like, I saw the poster, congratulations. And Chet's like, there's a poster? So Chet goes investigate. He's still walking with the baby in a little carrier, like wrapped around him. Other people are like, oh, congratulations, as he's walking. And then on the bulletin board, he sees Steph and Chet are getting married tomorrow, Atrium, 3 p.m. So this is like news to him. So Ghoul is unconscious. The big, heavy breathing creature thing that brought him there, he's tied up. He says he's like standing up like vertical. The closed captions call him super mutant, like lowercase. So he is a super mutant. We don't know what his name is. And he's like, uranium, bad for them, good for you. And he's like, there's a war coming and we need you healthy. And he sticks in the uranium like in the hole, like going through, Ghoul. And he like yells out in pain. He's like, be still, you'll slow to healing. They call us abominations, but they created our kind. And Cooper's like, our kind? It's like, I think you and me got bit by a different mother trucking bug, my friend. And the super mutant's like, ghouls, mutants, we're kin, and we should unite against our common enemy. They drove us to the point of extinction and forgot that we ever existed, but we didn't forget them, the people who set all this in motion, the Enclave. Ghoul's like, I've been wastelanding for 200 years. Whatever it is I got to do, I do it alone. And Superman's like, uh-huh. He's like, and how's that working out for you? And Ghoul's like, I've kept myself alive for one reason, to find my family. Super Mutant's like, well then, you're going to need friends. But if you won't join our kind, then you can't know where we live. And then we see his face, and it's almost like Ghoul gasps or something like that, but I don't really notice anything like remarkable. He's just kind of like yellowish green, like it just could be the light, and you don't see his full face, just kind of close up of like his I don't know. He didn't seem like a super mutant. He didn't see it too weird. And he's like, no. And then the super mutant knocks him out or something. In the past, Barb's like, it's just arguing with Cooper. She's like, don't walk away from me, Coop. She's like, I know more than you know, okay? There are over 12,000 nuclear warheads set. And Cooper's like, I'm not a board member. I'm your husband. And she's like, don't. And he's like, I don't care about your fudging statistics. She's like, statistics? This is about Janie. And Cooper's like, so for our daughter, you would kill millions of people? And she like whispers, she's like, don't do that. He's like, billions of people, other mothers, just like you. Don't do that, Coop. Do not do that. He's like, other daughters, just like our daughter. And then she's like, wouldn't you? And there's like a long, pause, silence. She's like, for Janie? And like she whispers, wouldn't you? There are worse people out there than me, Coop. And he's like, who? Who could possibly be worse than you? And he like walks away. Later, Barb sits in a conference room. Betty comes up and she's like, Betty, I want you to get me every bit of information you can about how the cold fusion diode is stored at Vault 10. And she's like, oh? And Barb's like, and how is it secured? Who monitors it? Everything. And Betty's like, is that a good idea? And Barb's like, none of this is a good idea. And she leaves the conference room and gets into an elevator. There's a man in there and says, you're just a very replaceable part in this machine. So it's Michael Emerson. I forgot his name. He's a guy that saved Dogmeat. So this is obviously in the past because he was killed. His head was chopped off and everything. But what's weird is I forget what his name was, and I didn't look it up. I was going to. I meant to look it up. But the closed captions here, they don't have his name listed. So it's like, was his name not listed in episode 1? I don't remember. So she's like, I'm sorry, who are you? And Michael Emerson's like, but if you forget your place in the company, you'll die. Okay, actually, I just looked it up on IMDb. So this episode, they have him listed as Siggy Wilzig. So I don't know. It's just weird that they don't have him like because and what I'm talking about is if you watch something on Prime and you pause it, the X-ray as they call it, shows you the actors, who's in that scene, and it also says like what their name is and everything like that. So that's weird. Wait, was he in episode? Was it episode 2? Whatever. I'm not going to worry about that. So he's like, if you forget your place in company, you'll die, and so will your family. He's like, the same will happen to me if I don't communicate this message. We're all in the same boat, and not one of us can stop it. He's like, you know that? You wake up knowing it. The leaders of the most powerful corporations will be gathering here, and when they do, you tell them. The only way to guarantee results is, and then later she's like, by dropping the bombs ourselves. And like Robert, there's all these people that are like Robert House decoys there for Robco, and it's like kind of like a dark like conference room, so it's not the regular one. Later she tells Cooper, so it's like, wait, when did that happen? That wasn't really, because whatever. So she tells Cooper, she's like, he's like, who threatened you? And she's like, please, Coop, you don't need to get involved in any of this. And Cooper's like, who controls Vault Tech? And she's like, I don't know. And Cooper's like, well, let's find out. And she's like, no. This is not one of your movies with a happy ending. There's nothing we can do. If there was, I would have done it. I tried to do it. The deal is going forward, whether we like it or not. And she's like, please, look at me. I am your wife. You know me. You know me. He's like, I don't know you, Barbara. And he walks out. And she's like, where are you going? He's like, to fudge and do something. So then we see Cooper he's back at the like hotel bar. So I think they're still at the same hotel. So he goes down. He sees Hank at the bar, like having a drink with someone. And he still has that like briefcase, like handcuffed to his wrist. Then in the present, Hank's assembly workers, we see them there. Lucy and Hank come through that room, and one woman sees him, like drops this like big metal tray on the floor, and she gasps. Hank's like, nothing to worry about, folks. My daughter is here to pursue the cause of justice. And we like justice, don't we? And they're all like, yes. And she asks him, she's like, where did you find them all? And he's like, oh, all over. So many people need our help. And then louder, he's like Marjorie, you used to be kind of a murderer, right? And she's like, I guess. And he's like, now she's a pencil sharpener, and a darn good one. He continues to introduce the other, like there's this woman who used to cook people, and I forget who else there was. So then there's a special door. I guess probably like a faster way out. He's like, it's management perks. And she says that when they leave, she's like, we're leaving all the doors open so they can go home, understood? And he's like, you're the boss. And then she gets her attention, and she wants to let them know that they're free now. And there's like confused murmuring. She's like, you can all go back to the surface now. And it's the lady who used to cook people, she's like, do we have to? And this other guy's like, it's dangerous out there. Hank says, he's like, I agree, but my daughter's moral code demands it. This dude's like, but we like it down here. And Hank's like, okay, tell you what, you can stay here as long as you like, but when we leave, we're going to open all the doors. The snake oil salesman, he's like, sorry to interrupt. He's like, what about these two? He's like, they haven't been converted yet. So they're like opposing clan fighters, and they're like tied to like office chairs, and they're like trying to get at each other. So it's the dude, snake oil salesman. He's like, should we do it now? Hank tells Lucy, he's like, all he has to do is push a button. And she's like, no. So Hank says, all right, send them off as is. Snake oil dude, he's like, okay. He cuts one free, and Lucy tries telling him to wait, but it's too late. He hits snake oil salesman, and he tries attacking the other guy, but Lucy runs forward and pushes a cart like in the way at the other guy, and she wheels the tied up guy away. And Hank's like, this is exactly the kind of violence I'm trying to prevent. And he's like, I wish we could just all get along. It's like, don't you, sugar bomb? But she's trying to keep kind of workers and desks like between the freed guy and the tied up guy. He finally like, shoves some people like out of the way. He grabs her by the throat. Hank looks a little concerned now, but he still doesn't do anything. She like reaches behind her, and Marjorie, the pencil sharpener, is like, pencil? So Lucy takes one, jabs it into the side of his chest, and he like groans, and then he tosses her like over a desk. The dude then he I think he grabs like a big stapler or something like that, And he goes up to the tied up guy. Lucy's on the floor. She's like, no. The free guy is like hammering like the metal against like the tied up guy's head. And Hank's like, press the button. It's the only way. So she gets up, struggles, and then she presses the button. They both stop. And then the free guy says in a friendly voice, hey there, buddy. You okay? The tied up guy, like almost like a sophisticated voice, is like, well, I seem to have found myself in a bit of a jam. And they both chuckled. Could you help me out? Sure. What are you doing here? Why, thank you. And Lucy looks at them both confused. He's like, let's get you some help. So Lucy glares at that. He kind of smirks. He's like, kumbaya. And she just continues glaring at him. Ghoul is being dragged out, so he's still tied to that metal fence stretcher thing. And then in the past, Cooper brings like a drunk Hank into his hotel room. He's like, you better sit down for a bit. And he's like, okay. He's like, nice, comfortable chair. Okay. Oh, thanks. Wow. Cooper grabs like some sort of drug from a drawer and puts it in a drink. Hank's like, thanks for having me over, Coop. He's like, for some reason, I didn't think you liked me very much. And Hank like laughs as he mixes the drugs in, as Cooper mixes drug into his drink, he like swirls it with his finger. And he's like, I hope you like 'em strong, cowboy. And then he walks over to him. They, clink glasses. Next scene, Hank is out. He's like in chair. His head's like lulled back. Cooper sighs and he finishes his drink, grabs a case, opens it, takes out this device, and he's like, what is this? So it looks like some sort of big like injector gun. There's almost like a long, thick needle. And he's like, Hank, what is this? Huh? He's like, Hank. Then Barbara comes in and she like glares at Cooper. And she takes off her coat. She walks up to Hank, sees that he's like passed out, turns to Cooper, grabs the device, sticks it under like Hank's right ear, and then like big loud. And his eyes kind of flicker a bit. And then there's like this little jar dispenser like in built into the gun that she's able to take out. The cold fusion particle diode thing is just like floating in there. And she and Cooper like just stare at each other. Then Maximus and Thaddeus are sleeping by the fire. Dogmeat comes up with Ghoul's hat, drops it and barks, like wakes him up. Then he grabs a hat and leaves. So Maximus gets up and follows, and Thaddeus comes along too. And then it's daytime, and they're still following Dogmeat. They're like in this like small deserted town, and Maximus, he's like, fudge. Ghoul is like sitting on the floor. He's like too weak to move, and he curses too. And Thaddeus just like lifts his hand. He's like, hey. And Dogmeat whimpers and barks. And that's the end of the episode. So with what I was saying, I was like, Maximus and Thaddeus, they're not really doing much, but they've been reunited with Ghoul. So we have that. Now, will Ghoul and Lucy reunite? Is she going to be mad at him? Is she going to forgive him? But the thing is, what she has to understand is, Ghoul he's concerned about his wife and daughter. Hank basically like threatened them. So we'll have to see what happens when, because like I said, 2 more episodes. So we'll see where this is going to go. Okay, let's talk Hijack, Season 2, Episode 2, Control. So I'm digging this. I have no idea where this is going to go. So because we had quite the twist with the end of the first episode of last week's episode, or whatever you want to call it, 201. And as I watch this, and I'm like, I'm watching the story unfold. I'm watching, paying attention, all that, but also trying to think, it's like, where's this going to go? And we're supposed to think about that, because like, what are going to be the consequences? And it was just kind of crazy. So basically, hopefully you've listened to, if you are invested in this show, you've listened to last week's episode, because basically in the first season of Hijack, Idris Elba is like a business negotiator guy. He's very intelligent, very he notices the details and he just knows how people work and everything. So in the first season, he was on a plane, and the plane was being hijacked, and he was able to like notice things and basically help stop things from happening. kind of saved the day, without being like John McClane or, some big action hero. It was never like a physical thing. It's more like a psychological thing. And that's what I think was cool about that. Because we've seen the action heroes, in whatever crazy situation, having to plow through an army of whoever, thugs, and this was totally different. Now, what makes this season different is it is a continuation, and I don't know why I'm being so hesitant. I guess I'm giving you time to make sure you're going to get to spoilers. But this time we have a train getting hijacked, like a subway train. And this time it turns out Idris Elba's the one hijacking the train. He is determined. He's in Germany, and he wants to find this crime family dude who is in charge of the plane hijacking. In order to do that, he's hijacking a train because he is in Germany. He's like, his demand is, I want you to find this dude. And it's like, what are you thinking? You're going to extreme measures to try to get the police because they're not doing what you want them, what you feel they should be doing. So you're escalating, you're raising the stakes, making it look like this train is being hijacked so they get up and find this guy. But now, are they just going to let him walk away? It's like maybe if he's like, okay, I'm going to slip away, they'll never know it was me. Even though, but see, that doesn't even make sense because he's literally looked straight, he stood there at the CCTV, whatever cameras, you want to have CCTV cameras, is that what they are all over? Like in the train station, he stands there, he looks right at the camera. So it's like he's specifically purposely doing that. So they're going to have records of him. They know that, and people could describe him, people have seen him. So I just don't know, like, what is his end game, because then things really escalate here. So, yeah, there's going to be consequences. Let's just get into the episode. All right, so control. Oh, and so what I was thinking, now that we know that what Sam's role, Sam Nelson, Idris Elba, if, he's in on knowing that the train was, taking this detour, going down this close-off way, that's probably why he was like banging on the door, telling Otto to slow down at the end of the last episode, and because he knew a turn was coming and the tracks were going to switch. So what we need to find out is, like, how much does Otto know? Because obviously Otto was in on it too, because there's mention that he knew what he was doing, so he probably got some payment. But I think the biggest thing I'm fascinated by is, like, what is his thinking? What is Sam's thinking that he would go to such illegal, extreme means? And yes, crazy stuff happens this episode. So, all right, at Control, the lady working there that he's been talking to, her name is Clara Berger, something like that. And she tells her supervisor dude that wagon 2600 is gone because I guess he doesn't believe her, because then he calls on the radio and Sam says hello. So the dude gives his name. His name is Edward Deal. I keep forgetting his name. He says that he's a manager at Control Center, and he's like speaking in German. So Sam asks if he can speak in English, and Edward, he's like a little. So Carla motions that, she takes over, she gives her name. She asks if she's able to speak to the driver, please. And Sam's like, you're talking to me now. She's like, do you understand? And she's like, yes. He's like, Clara, listen to me. This train has been hijacked, okay? There are over 200 passengers on this train. If you do not do exactly what I say, you will put them in danger. Do you understand what that means? So basically he's saying, he's straight out saying, I am hijacking this train. So she's like, yes, she understands. And he's like, or she's like, I guess so. So Edward, he asked her, like, off the mic, he's like, who the devil is this? And then she says to Sam, she's like, sorry, who am I talking to? He's like, no questions, just listen. Can you do that, Clara? And he keeps like using her name, because that's like a power thing. He knows her name, she doesn't know his name. So she's like, yes, we are listening. He's like, speak to the police. There's a man I want. His name is John Bailey Brown. So she scrambles for like a pen, and she's like, can you repeat that, please? And so he repeats. And Sam's like, he's in Germany. The government knows where he is. Tell them to find him, Clara. And he's like, Clara? And she's like, yes, I will try. He's like, no, Clara, you will not try. Think of the passengers. You will do exactly what I say, and you will do it quickly. And if you do that, nobody gets hurt. Yes? And she's like, yes, we will contact the police. She's like, stay there, and please don't hurt anyone. Then at a school, this guy, like, at first I thought he was like in a military suit, but he was actually like police, whatever, German police, like high ranking, I don't know what it is. He just like walks past the desk, and this lady's like, you can't go down there, because he goes downstairs. He just ignores her. He like looks around, goes down this hall, goes in this like band room or something like that. There's like some sort of recital happening. And then there's this other lady in uniform sitting next to the guy, and I don't know. At first, I was like, "Is it her husband? Is it the teacher?" He like points over to this new guy. So it's like, okay, who are these people? They're police. Then we see Olivia. So she was the lady at the British Embassy, and Sam was supposed to meet with her. And so she's sitting with that guy Arnold Goth. He was the guy they brought in to talk about whatever Sam wanted to talk about. And he's like, "Looks like Mr. Nelson has somewhere he'd rather be." So he gets up in kind of like a huff, and she gets up and she hands him images. She's like, "Don't forget these," because she was able to somehow get some CCTV images or whatever. So he stares for a moment, but he takes them. He's like, "What do you really believe this picture shows us, Miss Thatcher?" And she said, "Sam believes this image places the fugitive John Bailey Brown in Germany." So this dude's like, "And I believe this could just be anyone." So he hands it back. And she's like, "I just think he's like, Olivia, some advice. Take heed from your predecessors and do the absolute bare minimum for this man. Mr. Nelson is in a hole which he dug entirely for himself." And he leaves. So that's interesting right there. It's like, what does that mean? He dug a hole for himself. And what is his connection with the British Embassy? He's obviously not affiliated with them, because, not really sure where he works. Or, does he work anywhere? Is he just like a free agent and he just goes, where needed? And the fact that he's done something, and this dude's saying he's dug himself in a hole. So that's why he's obviously going to such extreme measures. So in a card, the lady at the recital, she asked the other dude, she's like, "Who is John Bailey Brown?" And the guy's like, "As far as we can tell, he's a British criminal, a fugitive." She's like, "And the guy asking for him, the hijacker, he's British too?" And he's like, "Yes." And she's like, "Has anyone spoken to British intelligence?" And the guy's like, "All agencies have been alerted, but we need to act fast. There's been a serious threat to life." And she's like, "More serious than my daughter's band murdering Beethoven?" He's like, "They are evacuating all the stations, but it's rush hour." And she's like, "Hopefully that's the worst that happens today. We make everyone late for work." So at the control place, Edward, the manager dude, he gets off the phone and tells Clara that the chief of police is inbound. So it turns out this lady, she's the chief of police, Ada Winter. So he tries getting Clara's attention, but she's like muttering. She's like, "It doesn't make sense." And he asks about the last signal that the train went through, and she's like, she tells him, she's like, "Then it vanished." And he's like, "Evacuate the U5." So that's like the name of the train line. And he's like, all trains and stations." And he asks the others, the other people working at their council radio places to evacuate their lines, because like everyone's in charge of a different line, I guess, which, kind of makes sense, rather than having one person like deal with everything, so they can just focus on their specific line. So he's like, "We hold all trains, but we don't crash the whole network. We don't want mass panic." Clara's still concerned about something, and Edward says that if the hijacker contacts her again, to call him. And she's like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "To find your missing train." So at first I'm like, okay, this dude's a manager, but he almost seems like borderline like snotty or whatever, like know-it-all. First thing, like when she's like, "It's gone," and then he gets on the radio because like he doesn't believe her. Maybe not. I don't know. So the train is sitting on a track. After it took the detour, Sam peeks back in the train car. Like you hear one passenger ask another, it's like, "Where are we?" And it might have been one of the teachers like, "I don't know." Then the other teacher asked that stressed kid. I don't remember if his name was Colin. I don't know why I was thinking it was Colin, but it might be George. Doesn't matter. So the kid that pulled the emergency thing, he's like, "Do you want any something to drink?" And then this other girl's like, "Sir, it was his fault that the train stopped." And George asked the teacher if they're stuck down there, and the teacher says that they'll be moving soon. It's only been 5 minutes, but he's like, "No, it's been 9." So I'm not sure why he's stressed out about trains, but he's got some history or something. Sam tells Otto, the conductor, that he needs to talk to them, to the passengers. And Otto's like, "What, me?" No, it's like, no. He's like, they're your hostages. And Sam's like, you're the driver. You're who they expect to hear. This would be a lot easier if they're kept in the dark, okay? Trust me. So, he doesn't want to tell everyone, like, hey, you guys are all being held hostage. He wants them to think everything, there's like some random delay. So the other passengers are talking. One asks if they should go talk to someone. The one, like, lady volunteer, the tattoo volunteer, I'll just call her that. She's like, oh, I'm sure it's fine. And then the dude with her I think he was like flirting with her. He's wearing a cap. I'm going to call him Cappy. And he's like, they should have updated us. So then the two teachers, they're talking about like skipping the museum and going straight to the walking tour. One of the guys starts talking about a scarf, and the other guy's like, it's like, oh no, I wanted you to keep it. And so I don't know if this means they're dating. I don't know if it matters. But then like one of the kids like overhears them and kind of like snickers or something. So it's like, okay, cool, great. And then so the student is like Rebecca. She's the one that hears this. Otto starts talking in German. And then she's asked the teacher, she's like, what are they saying? And the teacher's like, well, that's why you should be practicing your German. And she's like, really? So the teacher translates, due to ongoing service problems, the train is unable to stop at all stations. Currently being held at a red signal. You should be moving again shortly. So Olivia tries calling Sam again, leaves another message. She's like, where are you? And she's like, I know that, you came all the way from London, but it took me weeks to set up this meeting. She's like, call me as soon as you can, okay? Her coworker, the lady that like talked to her before, asked her, how to go with Sam. And Olivia says, he's like, he stood me up. So that the lady's like, well, he might have a good excuse. There's delays all over with the trains, and there's a terror incident of some kind. Little does Olivia know that Sam's the one that caused all this. But it's weird. He has this meeting scheduled with this dude. I don't know exactly what this dude could do. Maybe nothing, but Sam basically blew it off. So this other train calls control. Clara tells her to evacuate her train. That's an order. Stay off this channel. Then she sees Edward looking, I'm assuming like old maps. He's got some big like sheets of paper. So he's looking at other tunnels or something like that. Trains are being evacuated. People aren't happy. It's snowing outside. The train worker later, I forgot. I don't know if we said her name, but the one who talked to Otto when he said he had to go to the bathroom. She tells a passenger that they should be up and running later, but then an officer standing there like helping direct people out. She's like, oh, I doubt it. So the worker lady, she's like, well, what's going on? And the officer's like, I'm hearing that there's a driver in serious trouble. Sam tells Otto that they're all set. He's like, let's get going. So he tries to start the train, but an alarm goes off. It's like the controls are locked. He like tries moving it, but it doesn't do anything. So apparently Otto says it's emergency brake alarm. Someone pulled it, so they can't move until it's reset. And he's like, why did they pull the alarm? And Otto's like, because I skipped stations. And he's like, exactly. All right, your problem. You fudging fix it. Because if you don't get this train moving before they find us, then we're dead. When Otto starts heading out, Sam stops him. He's like, don't speak to anyone. And he's like, okay. And Sam's like, no, I'm serious, okay? Just remember what I said to the control center. If people do exactly what I say, nobody gets hurt. I mean, obviously, we have to assume Sam is just totally bluffing. But what's going to happen if his bluff gets called? The chief of police arrives at control. Edward rushes out to talk to her and says that, they have the U5 locked down and the rest of the network's on hold. The other officer that came with her says that there's only a few more stations, so there's only, so far you can go, yes. Edward's like, yes. And she's like, you don't know where the train is, Mr. Deal? And he motions to like a giant lit up map with all the lines. He's like, this map is simplified. In reality, down there, it's and then the other officer's like, a labyrinth. The police chief, she's like, who has been speaking to him? And he's like, Clara Berger. And so the chief of police says, she's like, good day. She shakes her hand. She asks if she deals with a lot of these. And Clara's like, it's only my second week here. So then the police chief's like, then let's hear what this guy has to say. Which I'm so glad that she didn't be like, okay, we're going to pull you off and put someone else on. Because, she's already made contact, so, it has to be her. Sam watches as Otto goes out in the train. He asks about the emergency alarm, and the teacher shows him like which one was pulled. This girl, that girl Rebecca, she's like, "Well done, George." And George's like, "Shut up, Rebecca." And Rebecca whines the teacher. "Teacher, he told me to shut up." And the teacher's like, "Enough, Rebecca." So she sounds like she's like a piece of work or whatever. The guy in the next car, so Cappy, he sees Otto going to the alarm. Sam hears like a thunk and the alarm is reset. So the red light shuts off. Cappy comes into the car and he calls out the driver, and Otto's trying to go back to the conductor car. So Otto turns and Cappy's like, "What's the holdup?" And Otto turns and starts walking, and Cappy starts getting testy with the teacher, because the teacher says, "Well, the driver just reset the alarm," and Cappy's like, "Well, some of us have jobs to get to." So he's like, "Okay, whatever," but you were content sitting back there flirting with the tattoo lady volunteer. In the driver's car, Control is trying to call. Clara says, like, "The police are here. They're ready to talk." Cappy calls out to Otto again, the driver, and he's like, but it's like, okay, I guess you don't want him to actually drive the train, because and he's going back to the front and you're interrupting him, you're stopping him from going there. So he asks, he's like, "Are you all right?" It's like, "You're bleeding." And Rebecca, the student, she's like, "Yeah, what happened to your face?" And Otto pauses, he's like, "Sorry." And Rebecca points to his temple. She's like, "Your face." So it must have been when Sam slammed him against the wall or something like that. He must have cut himself. I don't remember yet. So Control tries getting them to answer. Sam watches the other teacher talking to Otto. He tells Otto that he has a cut. Then Sam comes out with a first aid kit. He's like, "Need this?" He's like, "Your cab was open." So the police chief asks Clara if they can talk to him, and she's like, "Otto, are you there?" The others can hear the radio playing over whatever the speakers. Otto's like, "Sounds like you're needed," and Cappy stares at them, and the police chief's like, "00, why aren't you answering?" And then Otto asks Sam, "Maybe you can come with me to help me with my cut." And Otto says to everyone, "Wishing you a pleasant onward journey." In a train car, they call back. They're like, "Go ahead." So the police chief gets on. She's like, "This is Ada Winter. I am head of the something, whatever, there in Berlin." And she's like, "Who am I talking to, please?" And Sam's like, "There is only one name that is important today. That is John Bailey Brown. Where is he?" So she's like, "We will get you an answer. In the meantime, can you at least tell me if the driver is okay? Are any of the passengers injured?" And Sam's like, "Right now, they are fine. Just get me what I need." She's like, "I give you my word, we will do everything we can to locate him." He's like, "Okay, let me help you. He's here in Germany. Track him down and send me proof." So Ada's like, the police chief, she's like, "If you could just tell us who you are, I'm sure we can find a very quick solution." He's like, "I need this exact location or people die." And again, you are making major threats here. So they're not going to take that lightly. So then this older dude walks in the back. So she says to the guy she came with, she's like, "What's he doing here?" The train starts moving. Passengers are happy. Sam looks out the window, and Otto's like, "We're moving." He's like, "That's good, right? That's what you wanted." And Sam's like, "Yeah." And then Otto's like, "And the control center, the police, they're doing everything you asked for." He's like, "Yeah." So he's like, "So why keep threatening people?" And Sam's like, "You knew what was involved when you took the money." And Otto's like, "Just hope no one needs to get hurt." And Sam's like, "Me too." Then we see Marcia, Sam's wife, ex-wife, whatever. She's out for a hike because she's out in the whatever countryside. She calls this dude in the city. She's like, "Did you send me flowers?" And he's like, so this is her boyfriend. And he's like, "Flowers? No." And she's like, "Flowers arrived. Marcia Nelson, no sender." And he's like, "Not me." He's like, "I thought about it, but..." And she's like, "No, that's not what I meant." He's like, "Wait, Marshall Nelson? Was it Sam?" And she's like, "Doubt it. We haven't spoken in months." And the dude's like, "Well, maybe that's why he's sending you flowers." And she's like, "Maybe." He's like, "I'm thinking about you today. I tried you earlier, but I couldn't get through." And she's like, "No signal at the bothy." So I was like, what the heck is a bothy? Bothy is apparently a small cottage or hut. And I think it might be, I don't know if she's in Scotland, because it's apparently a Scottish word, but that doesn't mean anything. So she's like, "There's no signal at the bothy." She's like, "Remember?" And she's like, "It was sort of the point." And he's like, "Right. And you're sure you're okay up there?" She's like, "I'm fine." She's like, it's really peaceful here. It's exactly what I need. Time to reflect." And she's like, "I'll see you tomorrow." So I guess she's heading back. So he's like, "Yeah, okay. Love you." So police chief Ada, she goes to this dude. It's Mr. Faber. He's the guy that arrived. And so he's played by Toby Jones, who is Arnim Zola in the Marvel, Winter Soldier and all that. So he says that he got there as quickly as he could. And she's like, "Well, you almost beat me here." Faber says that there's clearly a UK angle here. He's like, but it's your jurisdiction. And he's like, as I said to your boss, if there's any information I can share, any insight I can provide, well, I'll be right here. So she like smiles and she just like walks away, doesn't say anything, doesn't say thanks or whatever. So she's not happy that he's there. At the apartment where the police were tipped off in the morning, where there's like fake ID badges, they're still searching and like cataloging things. The detective dude, he's still there. His name's Detective Beck. So I don't know how big a role he'll play. But he's given like a little baggie. There's like an old kind of like Nokia phone or something like that was hiding in a toilet. So he dials something. I don't know if he dials like the last number or something like that. But then in a hotel room, there's like a couple cleaners are working. One shuts off the vacuum because she hears a phone like vibrating. She opens a drawer and there's an iPhone like sitting next to a passport. And on the screen it says Marco is calling. And then it stops ringing and then a notification shows, so you see the lock screen. Notification shows that Olivia Thatcher like sent a voicemail and a missed call. So wait, now that I think about this, no, it said Marco, yeah. So Marco is probably whoever did the ID badges and is calling. Yeah, because at first I was just saying, wait, was Olivia just now calling? But no, because it said Marco was calling. And the screen shows Marcia, and I'm assuming that's Kai, Sam's their son. It's clearly Sam's phone, and it's probably his passport. And just to make sure that we know on the TV screen, so they do this at some hotels when you go in, like on a TV, there's like a message on there. It says like, Guten Tag, Herr Nelson. Mr. Faber says to Ada, and the guy that she came with, she's like, John Bailey Brown hasn't been seen since the Kingdom Airlines thing. So Ada's like, so he is missing? And Faber's like, yes, but I'd be surprised if he ended up in Germany. The other cop's like, this hijacker of yours seems to disagree. And Faber's like, he's not my hijacker. And Ada's like, he's British though. And Faber's like, yes, I'm afraid that doesn't really narrow it down. The good news is that everyone leaves a trail. So whoever this man is, eventually will identify him. And she's like, but right now, we're nowhere. And Faber's like, much like your train. Clara's like, actually, maybe not. So her boss is like looking at the maps. The dude's like, he's heading on the U8. So Ada, police chief, she's like, how's that possible? He's like, Miss Berger will explain. Because she knows more English. But it's weird, they're like all in this office now. No one's by the radio. So like, what if Sam tries calling or whatever and there's no one there? Unless they would hear it over the intercom or over the speakers, like maybe. So she's like, you see where the U5 meets the U8? And she points on a map. She's like, you can't change here. And Ada, police chief, she's like, yes, you can. Clara's like, if you're a passenger, yes, but not if you're a train. It's an old maintenance tunnel. It was flooded 20 years ago, and so they closed it. The old points are exactly where the train disappeared. So Ada's like, he's making his own route? Where will he go next? We need to evacuate the whole network. Clara's like, already on it. We're just moving the last few trains out of his path. And then I think Ferber is like, sorry, this isn't my specific area expertise, but did you say move the trains out of his path? And then he like kind of gives him a look. So it's like basically, why are you moving the trains? Just leave them there so they're blocking the way. Stations are evacuated. We see Otto's lady coworker, and she's like the last one out, and the gates like are closing behind her. On the radio, station managers are told to report to Alexander Platz, whatever, to help with the evacuation. She responds that she can do that, and she's like, the U5, right? And they're like, no, the U8. And that like makes her stop, because she's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Olivia at the embassy, she asks this dude about the U trains and asks if any UK citizens are caught up in it. And he's like, come on, you know the drill. And she's like, well, there must be some connection, or all you suits from SIS wouldn't be crammed in there together. He's like, okay, but let's just say there are no British victims being reported. And then she just like thinks about that. At control, Clara is told by Ada to stick to the script, and she says that they can hear what they're saying, and she can step in if she needs them. The police talk about the risks of the operation, but they manage to locate the train on the maps. On the train, Otto starts like slowing down, and Sam's like, "What are you doing?" So he motions ahead, and they stop before like reaching a station. And there's a stopped train sitting there. And Sam's like, seriously? He gets on the radio. He's like, Clara, I thought we had an understanding. She's like, we do. He's like, so what the hell are you doing? She's like, the train in front of you is broken down. We are trying to move it. Let me figure out how long the engineering team will take. The other copper is like, GSG9 can be on site in 15 minutes. So that's like a strike team. Ada's like, we send armed units down there blind. We're risking passenger lives. But then she thinks about it. She's like, okay, get GSG9 on site. So it's like, okay, it didn't take you very long to make a decision. She's like, but they do not engage until I say so. And then she's like, Mr. Ferber, 15 minutes. That's how long you have to get me something solid on this guy. But then he doesn't like get up, scramble. He just sits there and like looks at her. It's like, okay, great. So the strike team gets a word. They start moving out. Otto asks Sam, what will they tell the passengers? And he's like, well, we'll tell them the same lies that we're being told. So Otto speaks, and Cappy starts complaining. How much of this BS do they expect us to swallow? Sam points and asks Otto, like, he's like, what's that doorway? And he's like, oh, it's nothing. It's a Schaltrum. He's like, it's the room for all the switches and so on. And Sam's like, and the cameras? And he's like, yes, but it leads into the station and to the streets. So we could go through. And he's like, no, we're not going anywhere, Otto. Have you got a portable radio? And then stupid Cappy asks someone if they can keep an eye on his bike. He's like, I'm going to go speak to the driver. The tattoo volunteer lady, she's like, what? Why? He's like, because someone's not telling the truth. And it's like, okay, you're so cool. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Otto and Sam walk in front of the train, so they got off, and they go to that camera room place. Otto says that they should be able to see the whole station from there. Sam opens the other door, and he can hear the PA saying, to head towards the nearest exit. He sees like the empty station. Cappy strolls to the front. He knocks on the door to the conductor's room. He knocks again. He knocks a third time, but they're not in there. Otto tells Sam that he thinks he's right, that there's no one there. Otto gives him a radio. She's like, Clara, you lied to me about the train. And she looks around, and she's like, no, engineers are on site, but it's going to take another 10 minutes or so. He's like, no, there are no engineers, are there? You broke our deal. Put Winter on. So she's like, this is Winter. He's like, I know what you're doing. You're going to get people killed. And she's like, we are doing everything we can to move the train. Stop lying to me. She's like, please talk to us. We want to help you here. Let the passengers go. He's like, not until I get what I want. And she's like, listen, we are looking into it. Why would I listen to you when you're not being honest with me? Move that train. So to the officer and Faber, she's like, so much for buying us time. The officer dude's like, we can still end this. And then the Faber, she's like, you don't have any updates for me, do you? Faber's just still sitting there. He's like I said, it's your jurisdiction. I'm just here to support. Cappy's still knocking. He's like, hello, why are you lying to us? Hey. And Otto opens the door. They're like, hello? And Cappy's like, why have we stopped again? And he's like, I've already announced that. Cappy like looks past Otto, but he doesn't see, it doesn't look like he sees a train in front of him. So I'm not sure if he sees anything at all. And so he's like, please go back to your seat. Otto starts to close the door, and then stupid Cappy slams his foot in the doorway to stop it, like in between. And we see that Sam's like standing off to the side. So Cappy's like, wasn't that British guy going to patch you up? Because he's still like bleeding in his head. Then Ada calls on the radio. She's like, this is Detective Chief of Police Ada Winters, whatever. And Cappy can hear. And she's like, you are right. We are keeping you in the tunnel. We are working on your demands, but we cannot jeopardize the safety of your hostages. So Cappy hears all this. Otto like lets the door slide open. He's like, okay, what do we do now? Otto and Cappy just like stare at each other. And Cappy's like, hostages? Otto steps aside. Sam yanks Cappy inside. And Otto closes the door. And the kid, like George, he looks up. I don't think he saw anything, but he may have noticed, whatever. Sam has Cappy pinned against the wall, and he has his hand over his mouth. He's like, you're a smart man, okay? Don't make this any more difficult than it needs to be. He's like, don't fudge with me. Like, sit down. So Otto whispers, he's like, hey, this is getting out of hand. Is this man you're asking for worth all this? He's like, yes, he is. Now stay over there. On the radio, he's like, okay, we're in a stalemate here, Winter.
keeping me here like this is not good. She's like, I just want to keep everyone safe. He's like, well, shift that train. She's like, I told you I can't put any more people in danger. He looks at Cappy. He's like, well, it's exactly what you have done. And when people start dying, it will be your fault. Marcia returns to the place she's staying at, and I think the door is like ajar. She noticed that. She like cautiously enters, but then nothing. We don't know like what's going on because we see the strike team. They're and moving in a car or whatever vehicles. They said that they're 2 minutes from the station. Sam mutters that if they stay there, they're dead. So he tells Cappy, he's like, I think he said to take his vest off, take something off, and he's like, take your belt off. And he tells him to put his arms out, and he wraps him with his belt. And then he carefully hands him a briefcase, and he tells him to hold it. And Cappy's like, why? What's in it? And Otto's like, this is madness. What are you going to do with him? And Sam's like, Otto, if you play your part, I'll play mine, okay? And then Cappy, he's like, no sudden moves. And Cappy's like, why? What's in here? What are you doing? On the radio, he's like, okay, Winter, I'm going to send a passenger down to the next platform. He has a briefcase with him. And she's like, okay, what's in the briefcase? Sam looks at his watch. If you do not shift that train by 11 a.m., you will find out. The other cop, dude, he's he's like, so now he's threatening to blow up innocent civilians? It's time to take him out. Ada's like, I didn't want to escalate this. Faber's like, you'll forgive me. That particular train has left the station. So strike team arrive at street level. One of the passengers says that the other guy just texted, like some guy she knows, can't get on the U-Bahn security incident. The tattoo volunteer lady, she's like, what'd she say? And she says that, her mate just texted her that he can't get on the U-Bahn because some sort of security incident, and he hasn't said anything else. Sam tells Cappy, he's like, that he's going to head down the platform. You're going to hold this out where it can be seen by as many cameras as possible. We'll be here watching. Can you do that, Freddie? So I guess his name was Freddie, but I'm still going to call him Cappy. She's like, And he's like, do I have a choice? He's like, yeah. You can stay here and risk the lives of 200, or you can go down there and risk your own. So he starts walking carefully in the tracks. Otto asks Sam, she's like, what if they don't give you what you want? He's like, well, just have to make sure we're ready. Olivia rides at the control building, so she went over there. She meets Faber in the lobby. He's like, I understand you have some important information. And she's like, I think I know someone on the train, a UK citizen. So Faber's like, friends and family is really something for the embassy to deal with. And she's like, I'm from the embassy. And he's like, well, right now, I'm busy with the British intelligence, or British intelligence response or something like that. So he walks away, but she's like, so you already know then? And so Faber stops, and she's like, who the hijacker is? So he comes back to her. Then we see Sam goes into the camera room. He's watching Cappy. The police see him like on camera. The police chief tells Sam, it's like, you're going to kill an innocent man? And Sam's like, no, you are. Move the train. Cappy starts like walking through the empty terminal. Someone asks Ada, it's like, so we're just going to let this man go up in smoke? And she's like, maybe we should move the train. The other cop's like, a strike is our only option. Ada, she thinks about it, that she sees, Olivia, but doesn't really pay attention. And she's like, send them in. The strike team moves. They go down its terminal. Sam sees them on camera. They have, laser scopes, on the Cappy. And there's no sign of the target. Sam radios, Winter, I know what you're doing. If your men take one more step into the station, it's game over. So she asks the room, how's he seeing this? And then she motions to the other cop, and he radios the strike team to fall back. Then Otto's coworker lady comes out of somewhere, and she says to Cappy that they're evacuating the station, and the strike team says, he's like, stop, hold position. Sam radios who's this now, Winter? So she asks the control boss dude, after Sam's like, who's this now, Winter? And he's like, it's one of our station managers. So Winter says that she thought that they had it locked down. Faber and Olivia walk into the office. Sam radios, Winter, you are putting people's lives at risk. Get her out of there. And she's like, we're working on it. Cappy's like, help me, get this off me. And she's like, why? What's in there? Strike team calls out to her, stay back, don't move. He has a bomb. They start coming down the stairs, and Sam's like, what's it to be, Winter? And she's like, 00, you know my name, but I don't know yours. Don't try to negotiate with me. She chimes in. She's like, it's Sam. His name is Sam Nelson. That's who you're talking to. So Winter's like confused and looks at Faber, and he kind of gives like a little nod. Cappy's like, help me. Strike team yells out, stay back. Like all the laser targets are on Cappy. So police chief, she's like, please don't do this, Sam. And then he says, I think he says more to himself, not to her. He's like, WTF? She's like, it's Sam, isn't it? Are you there? Sam, are you there? Sam, please. We know who you are, and we can figure this out. So strike team guy like runs up, grabs the lady manager from behind, pulls her away. The two other guys have like shields up, in case the bomb goes off with Cappy. And they put them together to like make a barrier, and they kind of back up. Cappy whimpers. He's like, don't go. And then they back up. Winter continues, are you there, Sam? Please, are you there? He keeps fidgeting with his Zippo, and finally in the radio, he's like, 45 seconds. And Cappy screams, help, help. And 30 seconds. So they all watched the cameras. Cappy turns, and he's like looking right at one, and quietly sounds like, I didn't want to do this. And then, boom. And all the cameras feeds like shut off. And there's lots of, so it's like, did an explosion take them out? Winter and Clara, they look like shocked, upset, and guilty, and that's where it ends. But the question is, if there was a bomb, how close are they? Would they hear, would they feel the explosion? Because there's a shot where like Faber looks out the window, like if he's like looking nearby. So I kind of took it like maybe they're kind of close, but we don't know. So it's like, what did Sam do? And how would he turn off all the cameras if it was an explosion? I don't know. So that is episode 2, season 2, episode 2. Right now, the 3rd episode is out. So yeah, I will talk about that next week. All right, let's talk Wonder Man. So what I decided, and we'll see if I catch up or double up in another week. But I'm just going to do the first episode, partially because I think boohoo Tony. I mentioned last week that this is kind of crazy week. A lot of stuff happening, whatever. So yeah, that's the story of my life. But so we're just going to do the first episode. Now, I remember people supposedly complaining that the first episode was really short. It wasn't really that short. It was like, it was like 35. I mean, I guess if it was like, I forget now if it was like 35 minutes, but then there's like 5.5 minutes of trailers or credits, from the like international dubbing and all that stuff. But I dig it. It definitely has a different feel. It's a little borderline meta with some things, because they actually talk about like some real things, real movies, and it's interesting seeing it like set in Hollywood. And we have obviously Trevor Slattery from the Mandarin, from Iron Man, and I don't know where this fits into the big picture. As we have like Doomsday and Secret Wars coming soon. Is there any chance of Simon Williams meeting any of those, or is he just gonna be totally separate? Because this is a Marvel Spotlight thing, and I think they did that with Werewolf by Night, and that's like the loose way to say like, well, this might not be totally directly in continuity. So I don't know, and I don't know if anything's been like officially said, if there's been any statements or whatever interviews. So it starts off, we see like old movie Wonder Man version, he jumps down, he's wearing like a red and green costume. He has like this, kind of cheesy, 70s yellow, jetpack on. And he's like, if we don't reverse the tomography in the next 30 seconds, Barnaby doesn't stand a chance. And then the closed caption said like, female ally overcomes. She's like, I know, Wonder Man, and I'm trying. Then this like alien shoots a laser and it barely misses him, and he starts grappling with it. The second one pops up and he like knocks him off. They're like on rocks or cliffs or something like that. Then there's like a giant spaceship, and there's several more aliens. Like they start pouring out, like shooting at him. So Wonder Man's like, change of plans. There's too many. It's like, get out of here. Head back to the sanctum now. And she's like, what about you? He's like, I can't leave Barnaby to die. She's like, but they'll kill you both. And he's like, I don't care. And then the camera starts to pan out, and we see that it's playing like on a
It's on a screen in a theater. So he flies up with his jetpack. This dude's like watching the movie with his son, and his son is like mesmerized. And we see like Wonder Man taking out several aliens. So obviously the kid is Simon Williams. So we see him, as a kid here watching this, and he's just riveted with it. Cut to the present day. Simon's like making notes on a script. He's writing all this stuff like in the margin and everything. He's like stands. He practices his vocalizing and hails. He makes like roaring gestures, and he's marching in place. He loosens up, and in the mirror, he's like, "You got this one." He's like, "You already got the job." He's like, "You're gonna go out there and you're gonna crush it, one step closer to the top." And there's a knock on the door. "Mr. Williams?" He's like, "They're inviting you to set." So we see he's like in this little trailer. They walk across like a studio lot. All these people, bustling around, and Simon looks over the script as they're walking. Then on a building, and as he's walking down this one like kind of street and everything, there's like a big sign for Rogers the Musical. Inside the building, he meets the director Lauren. He's like, "Oh, I like the Castle Rock you directed." So that's the thing. It's like, Castle Rock was on Hulu, right? And Hulu's owned by Disney, so you can mention that. And he's like, he liked the Castle Rock she directed. He's like, and the Sons of Anarchy. He's like, they were the best in the series. And then he says hi to Ashley, an actress. He says that he's a big fan. He's like, he loved you in a Twilight series. And so he's going for the role of Professor Harpin. So the director sets up the scene. Simon is supposed to be packing up his desk after a class. Then his colleague Sarah enters, and she asks, "How was your trip?" So Ashley approaches. Professor Harpin says, "You do realize, according to legend, that's where the Aztec god of death, Mictlantecuhtli, or something like that, was tricked into giving up the bones that became humanity." And she's like, "Yeah, duh." And the director's like, "Great." And then Sarah transforms into monster, pop, pop, Pam. And then a double with a mask comes in. She's like, and she like chuckles, and she like bites off Professor Harpin's head. "Here, any questions?" Ashley's like, "Yeah, should I switch to that elote bowl or something?" Because that was something that Simon mentioned before when she was like trying to figure out what to eat or something like that. And Simon like laughs. He's like, "Hey," because she actually took his advice or something like that. And they start like walking away, but then he comes out. He's like, "Just one thing," and then the director's like, "Yeah, of course." He's like, "How long have Sarah and I known each other?" And the director's like, "That's a good question. What are you thinking?" He's like, "I was thinking we go pretty far back. Like maybe we were best friends, but then we had a little falling out when she got tenure before me." So the director's like, "Sure, why not?" And he's like, "Right? It might add a little layer to the scene." She's like, "Totally, let's try it." He's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Great." He's like, "So maybe I shouldn't say Sarah, right?" And then the director's like, "What's that?" He's like, "Well, the script says Sarah, but..." And she's like, "Mm-hmm." He's like, "If I've been secretly jealous of her career, I don't think I would be so friendly, Maybe I should call her Dr. Johnson instead, And the director's like, "Yeah, let's try it both ways." He's like, "Okay, great." So the director's like, "Let's shoot one." And he's like, "Oh, I wouldn't let her get that far." And the director's like, "Who?" She just wants to get going. He's like, "Dr. Johnson, considering our history, I don't think I'd let her cross all the way to my desk." And she's like, And she like clicks her tongue. He's like, "I think Professor Harpin would stop her right about here." And the director's like, No. Like, "That is interesting." And she's like, tuts. And she's like, "Damn, we're already lit. So I did want your dead body kind of bleeding out in this moonbeam that we have that." And this gaffer interrupts. He's like, "Oh, we can move the moonbeam. It'll only take a few minutes if you want it." And she kind of just like stares at him, and she might be a little annoyed. So she's like, "Let's move the moon." And Simon's like, "Yeah?" And she's like, "Yeah." So the light is moved. Things are getting set. Simon asks this dude, he's like, "Should I be packing up a copy of Aztec Thought and Culture by Miguel Leon Portilla?" And then the director's like, "Is there a problem, Simon?" He's like, No problem. I was just wondering if I should be packing up a copy of Aztec, whatever, Thought and Culture." And she's like, what's that?" He's like, "I'm assuming that's what I'm teaching, unless you're thinking Aztec Civilization by Henry Freeman, but that kind of changes things." And she's like, "Does it?" He's like, Aztec civilization is a quick read. It barely touches on Mictlantecuhtli. He's like, it might fit into an ancient civilization syllabus, but he kind of shrugs and chuckles. He's like, Professor Harpin is focused solely on Aztec studies, right? And she's like, no, there's no reference to a book. He's like, oh, but it says packing up his desk. And she's like, right. He's like, for tonight. And she's like, mm-hmm. And he whispers, he's like, I think it's implied. Then the gaffer and the other guy, you can see they're getting impatient because, they need to get this scene shot. One guy looks at his watch. So he's like, should we check with the writer just to be safe? And silence, and she inhales deeply. She walks away. So this other lady, Linda, she just got coffee. She asks Lauren, she's like, who's this bozo? And Lauren, the director, she's like, he had a great audition. And the lady's like, yeah, but at this rate, we're never going to make our day. And she's like, And the lady's like, can you get Ryan on the phone? So Simon's talking to the writer. He's like, and the interesting thing is, it's all here in your words if you really look at it. And the writer's like, you think so? He's like, I do. Professor Harpin's history with Professor Johnson is what makes his death at her hands all the more tragic. And she's like, honestly, I never thought of it that way. He's like, but it's here in the subtext. And the writer's like, yeah, I see that. So then, Simon, hi, Linda Cox. And he's like, hey. She's like, hi, really nice to meet you. I'm a big fan. He's like, oh, thank you. She's like, love all the thoughts that you're bringing. He's like, absolutely. And she's like, to this role. He's like, thank you. And she's like, yeah, thank you. The showrunner just called, and he is rethinking this episode. And he's worried about Professor Harpin's scene being a remnant of an early version of Ashley's arc. He's like, a remnant? And she's like, so he's cutting your character from the show. He's like, thank you so much for all your hard work today. And she just walks away. And a dude by the camera is like, that's a series wrap on Simon Williams. And he starts clapping, others clap. And Simon smiles, but obviously he's upset, and he walks off set. So then there's scenes around Hollywood, the Hollywood sign, others, other places, there's traffic. And he's driving, he punches the ceiling of his car. He's trying to park in a super tight spot, like a parking garage. You can barely squeeze out the passenger door. Then he's at his apartment. And then we get the Wonder Man logo on the screen. People are moving some furniture out. He walks in and asks the woman, he's like, you moving out? And she sighs. She's like, I thought you were wrapping at 5. He's like, so you're sneaking out? So it's obviously he's his girlfriend. She's like, I'm just trying to prevent this from becoming a thing. He's like, weren't you showing me pictures of rescue dogs last week and complaining I wouldn't commit? And she's like, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just not happy, Simon. He's like, I know. I just think you need to book something. Things will turn around. It's like, come on, Vivian. It's like, we're good together. She stares at him. She's like, you never let me in, Simon. Not really. It's a little late to start caring about this relationship. And she walks out. So he stands in the bathroom in front of the sink. He looks down. There's some rumbling. And I didn't really hear it, but closed captions are rumbling. Rumbling continues. And I don't know if it's from traffic outside. It wasn't really clear. He's looking down, then he looks in the mirror. Then we see movie theater, Midnight Cowboys on the marquee. So it's okay, or an actual movie. He's like, there's not a whole lot of people in the theater. He's waiting for the movie to start. He has his popcorn. Here's this other movie goer. That's what the closed caption calls a movie goer. He's talking very loudly. And he looks down the aisles. There's this other guy down there. He kind of raises his hands can you believe this guy? Then the loud talker, he's a few rows in front of him just talking on his phone. So Simon, he's like, shh. And then he gets up. He's like, hey, man, do you mind? And right away, the guy talking, he's like, the movie hasn't started yet. It's because it's still the trivia stuff before the trailers. And then dude turns around after ending his call. He's like, I'd never talk during the actual film. Don't fret. So it's Trevor Slattery, Ben Kingsley. And Simon's like, I'm sorry. Aren't you? He's like, oh, yes, I played the Mandarin. But that was over bloody 10 years ago, and I was just a puppet. And whatever theories you've seen on Reddit are totally false. I had nothing to do with Pizzagate. I'm not a member of the Illuminati, and I did not have my hands replaced with baby hands. And Simon's like, first of all, I always dug your performance as a Mandarin, but I remember you from that Omnibus episode you did in the 70s. You played Edgar Allan Poe, the need for nightmare. And Trevor's like, well, not too many people remember that old gem, including me. How was I?
And Simon's like, stole the episode. He's like, and I should know. I'm also an actor. You don't say. He's like, yeah, you know. And he's like, do you mind? He puts up his hand. Movie's about to start. So he just like cuts him off because the light's dim. And so Simon, because he went in a row behind him, so he just leans back. So he's just gonna watch the movie from there. So the movie's in progress. Both are like mesmerized, enjoying the performance and everything like that. Then the credits roll, and they keep going. And then they're kind of like the only ones left in there. And he's like, heartbreaking. And Trevor's like, never tire of rewatching that one. It's authentic, moving, really captures being an outside on the fringe. And his phone buzzes. He's like, and it's a little trippy, which is always nice. And Simon chuckles. He's like, Schlesinger didn't even think Hoffman was right for Ratso. Even though he'd just come off The Graduate, apparently Hoffman convinced him by showing up dressed in rags to their first meeting on a street corner. He was begging for change, and Schlesinger didn't even recognize him. And Trevor's like, I was fortunate to attend Schlesinger's production of Timon of Athens with the Royal Shakespeare Company. Sublime. Pity I was so blind drunk. So they're like outside now. He's like, so what's this big audition you were talking about? Because he was on the phone. Trevor like smiles, looks at him. He's like, look, man, I'm not a weirdo. I'm not desperate. I'm just curious. I would love to know what you're up to. Well, between you and me, it's a huge opportunity. I'm auditioning for Wonder Man. And there's like a surprised look on Simon's face. Anyways, nice meeting you. He's like, wait, he turns around and starts walking. Someone's actually remaking Wonder Man? Not someone, Von Kovac. And he turns and leaves. So he goes to his agent's office. He barges into his big conference room. Janelle, did you hear about Wonder Man? You didn't tell me Von Kovac was directing? So then there's like an interviewing, a superhero remake, not exactly what we expect from an Oscar-winning director. And Von Kovac's like, finding inspiration in another movie is not a crime. Look at what Cronenberg did with The Fly. So like again, talking about actual stuff. Silly bee picture, he made it personal, grounded it in modern science, and discovered new unthinkable horrors. Why not Wonder Man? So Simon's watching a video, like an interview on a laptop with Janelle, and he's like mouthing the words. So he's like memorized it. Human and spectacular. That's where the film needs to live. Superheroes are part of our lives now. So what will we find when we look at Wonder Man today? What can he teach us about ourselves? Janelle's like, sounds good. And Simon's like, I need to be in this movie. She like laughs. She's like, Simon, you crazy. He's like, I was born to play this character. She's like, oh, are you serious? Boo. They're already talking to Leo. He's like, no. Deadline said, talking about Deadline. Deadline said that they're looking for a new face. He's like, I have a new face. She's like, it's too late. Today was the last day of auditions. And he's like, well, couldn't you work a little bit of your magic? No one can say no to you, not when you put on that charm. And she's like, I know you're not doing this right now, Mr. I got fired from American Horror Story this morning. She's like, yeah, they told me you couldn't even lay in blood, Simon. How hard is that? You just sit there. You just lay. Then you storm into this meeting with my colleagues, acting like you own the place, and now you're trying to work me? She's like, you know what? You got some nerve. He's like, I just need you to believe in me, Janelle. She's like, I believe in you. I think you're one of the most talented people I know, but there's a lot of talented people out here who are not pains in the ass. Do you feel me? It's like, all right, we can talk about American Horror Story first thing tomorrow morning. It's like, Nandy will validate you. So Nandy's her like assistant. There's like a desk outside her office. So she leaves her office. Simon just sits there, and then he looks at her computer, like her email's still open, searches Wonder Man. And there's like maybe like 5 or 6 emails just dealing with that. He sees one on today's session, looks at the location, notes it, and it's like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And he looks at the sender's name and like number, Ruth Backsheet. Later, he calls Ruth from his car. He's like acting like he's from the agency. So he's told that she's in session. He's like, oh, she's in on Wonder Man, huh? And they're like, yeah, until 6 p.m. Oh, no, that is not good. Nandy's going to be in so much trouble. So again, Janelle's assistant. And the person on the phone is like, why? What's wrong? He's like, well, Nandy is out sick, She's got that stomach bug that's been going around. You better make sure you wash your hands, girl. And she's like, I do. He's like, anyways, I'm covering for her. And she just texted me because she forgot to get Simon Williams in on Wonder Man for Janelle. And now, see, the session's already started. And today's the last day. So when Janelle finds out, she is going to go ballistic.
And the lady's like, can he still make it? I can put him in on the list. He's like, oh my God, girl, you are an angel. I'm going to call him right now, okay? Thank you. And he's like excited because kind of does like a fist bump. He arrives at the check-in area and he's like, hey, Simon Williams, sorry I'm late. And the guy at this little desk at the bottom of the stairs, he's like, I'm assuming you're a Wonder Man and not a Barnaby? He's like, correct. He's like, just need you to sign this NDA. Also, I don't have a doorman waiver on file for you, so I'm going to need you to sign this. Assuming, of course, you don't have superpowers. And he signs it. He's like, okay, you're all set. Hands him a couple pages of script. Simon looks at it. He's like, mind if I keep this pen? He starts going up the stairs. And the guy's like, guess so? He's like kind of annoyed. Simon goes up, sees a hallway full of dudes sitting there. He starts making like notes on the scripts right away. So it's like he's doing it again. He goes over like the lines in his head, and he's sitting in a hall. There's like laughing going on. This other guy says to Simon's like, that guy's killing it. Who walks out? Trevor Slattery. So Simon kind of, hides his face inside. They're still laughing. One lady's like, where did I see him before? The other lady's like, pretty sure he used to be a terrorist. In the hall, Trevor walks by. Then he stops, and he stares at Simon. He still has like his head down. He's like looking at the script. Then he looks up. Trevor's like, come with me. So they go into the bathroom. You're a bloody mess. You can't go in like this. And Simon's like, you trying to get my head? He's like, I'm trying to help you, love. Some of us actually believe in supporting each other. Take it from someone who's eaten poop on stage more times than he can count. Not literally, mind you. You can still turn this around. It's not too late. I know. He chuckles. It's a lot to memorize. And Simon's like, no, my memory isn't a problem. So what's wrong? I can't get a hold of this character. I've seen the original too many times, and I'm trying to come up with a backstory for his relationship with Barnaby, but it's not making sense. And Trevor's like, well, trust the words. Just show up and say them. Be present. He sighs. He's like, nah, that's not my process. He's like, well, your process can go below a spider. Do you mind if I see this? Or, oh, this is your problem. You see, these notes are garbage. Sorry. He's like, no, it's how I learned it. It's how I make my choices. And Trevor's like, well, your choices are getting in the way. No one gives a fart about the subtext of the tales of the Embera people. We've got to get you out of your head. And he's like, and how do we do that? When you're in there, blow every last bit of air out of your lungs, hard and fast. With no air in your lungs, your body will go into shock. Shut down your frontal lobe, so no more logic getting in the way. Then your amygdala kicks in, and you'll be left with instinct. And they're like, Simon Williams. And Trevor's like, in here. And he's like, don't think. And Simon's like, don't think. Okay. So he enters his room, and they're like, you can slate whenever you're ready. So he's like, Simon Williams reading for Wonder Man. He inhales, then he kind of looks in his coat pocket for the script, and they're like, is everything okay? He turns, he kind of looked at the door, he faces them, inhales deeply, exhales deeply. They're all like staring at him, like waiting. He's like, the Embera people believe a soul fails to turn up right after death. It ends up in a dark and treacherous place. Well, he looks up at them. I've been to the void. I've lived in that screaming silence, and I know what it's like. I lost whatever part was left of me that makes a person, until Barnaby pulled me out. No one else ever gave a damn. No one. It's too late for me, but you can still walk away. I'm asking you nicely. Just walk away. Then later at a restaurant, it's like the oldest French restaurant or something like that. They're sitting at a bar. Trevor's like, it's a wonderful thing, not thinking too much. Served me well most of my life. And Simon's like, nah, I'm not sure I'd do it again. Why not? John Gilgoog used to have me whip him with a belt across his bare ass every night before curtain caught up. And that was before we were friends. Then things got weird. Bartender brings a Hayashi neat for Simon, which is, I guess, I looked it up, it's a Japanese single grain whiskey, and a Virgin Mary for Trevor with extra horseradish. And Trevor's like, 13 years sober. And the bartender's like, congrats. And he's like, thank you. And Simon's like, but an actor needs to think. To do the work, you have to fill in a backstory and the character psychology. If you don't understand it, how can you perform it? When we are born, we cry that we are come to this great stage of fools. And he's like, King Lear. Well spotted. I had a run of it in Croydon back in the 80s. I really struggled with the role at first. Then I remembered that great speech from Hamlet.
The purpose of playing is to hold as 'twere the mirror up to nature. Never forget that. Nature, that's our job, to understand the world around us and ourselves within it. The real work isn't digging for subtext or parsing a writer's intent. The real work is living. And Simon's like, I should probably get going. Of course, he chuckles. You're a young man with friends to see and important things to do. This one's on me. It's like, I think I'm going to do it a wedge salad. He's like looking at the menu. And Simon's like, hey, let's keep in touch. He's like, of course. Oh, Simon, I have a good feeling about today. Something fateful in the air. And Simon like chuckles softly. Then later he's eating his salad at a table. His phone buzzes. He, takes it out, or he takes the phone out, holds his breath, then answers. This is Trevor Slattery. The man on the phone's like, how are your drinks? He's like, $15 for a Virgin Mary? It's a bloody criminal. And the girl's like, Trevor? And he's like, third contact was established. And they're like, we don't call it third contact. He was at the matinee? And he's like, yes. He's like, then you ran into each other at the audition? And then we had drinks. Third contact. And we see Simon like walking outside. They're like, Trevor, you need to take this seriously. Simon Williams is a superpower. He is unstable and incredibly dangerous. This country isn't safe until he's in my custody. You sure he's buying the act? He's like, don't fret. I've got him right to where I want him. The call ends. He takes a bite. Then he gets a text from Simon. Look who I just bumped into. He texts a picture. He's at the Walk of Fame star of Von Kovac. He's like, and he writes, maybe it's fate. Trevor dabs his mouth with his napkin, takes a drink of his Virgin Mary. Simon like looks at his phone and keeps walking. And he's like walking past the man's Chinese theater, whatever. And that's the end. So what is this about Simon having powers? Because he signed a thing saying he doesn't have powers. And what does this mean? Who is talking to Trevor? Why is Trevor working for him? Because is it actually? I think we know from the trailer. I think it's someone from the from Damage Control. But how is Simon a threat? Why would he be a threat? How do they know he's a threat? So there's a lot of questions. But all episodes are out. I feel again, I'm not going to harp on it. One episode per week. You keep us in suspense. Let it and just savor it, enjoy it. But maybe at some point, if something, in a couple of weeks, maybe I'll double up or whatever. We'll see. But I'm enjoying it. It's something different. And now the movie feature is Send Help. So Send Help is directed by Sam Raimi and it stars Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. And I really enjoyed this movie. I'm so happy. Danny Elfman did the music on this. And it's weird because when I first saw the preview for it or something, and it might have been the trailer, I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't even heard about this. And then, I don't know if it was when I saw the trailer the first time or at some point, then I was like, wait, Sam Raimi? Was he producing it? Because a lot of times he produces stuff. And I feel like when he produces stuff, how heavily involved is he? Because I still don't know exactly what a producer does. Like, what is their role, compared to the director? And, you got producer, executive producer, and all this stuff. And I feel like sometimes it's like he may be involved to some extent, but let's just slap his name on there to try to get people like Tony, who loves Sam Raimi and, who grew up and was blown away by Evil Dead and all that he's going to want to see this because Sam Raimi is involved. And then you watch and it's like, this doesn't feel like Sam Raimi. And it does. Sam Raimi is not just Evil Dead. He's definitely done other stuff that is not just horror, whatever stuff like that. But then I don't even know where I was going with this. So then I saw it's like, oh wait, no, he's not. It's not just his name being slapped on the movie. He's not just a producer. He friggin' directed it. Okay, so great. That is going to be amazing. And when I look at the movie, so you see the trailer, Rachel McAdams is like this frumpy, she's a super hard worker. No one likes her. She doesn't get, super awkward type of thing. And then Dylan O'Brien is like the young hotshot, new CEO, nepotism, whatever. And he doesn't want anything to do with her. And he's basically threatening to fire her
but there's like this Bangkok merger or whatever. So he's like, I'll give you one shot, whatever. So they go on a private jet with some other people, and then jet crashes. They end up on a deserted island, and she kind of saves him. And then, things get intense, and he's like kind of bossing her around. He's like, have you made a distress signal? Have you done it? Do anything? And he's like, instead of playing Susie Homemaker or whatever and building shelter, and then he's like, don't forget, I'm your boss. And she's like, what? She's like, no, you're not out here. And so things get dark, and it's like, where is this going? Because it's not really clear, like, where is she coming from, and what is she, because she's like this kind of, she's been working at this company for 7 years, and I feel like I've just kind of gone all over the place now. And so she worked at this company for 7 years, and she's like a numbers whiz. She's got them out of like sticky situations. She's done all these amazing things to push things, whatever. And the CEO was like, okay, you're going to be getting a promotion type of thing. But then something happens to the CEO. Let's just say, we'll leave it at that. So then Dylan O'Brien ends up taking over, and so it doesn't look like she's going to get her promotion, even though, and it's like hard for her to like speak up. She kind of starts doing that, but she's still kind of, not necessarily meek, but it's just like you can kind of feel for it. And there's a point where she's like eating at her cubicle, and she's having like a tuna fish sandwich, and then she goes to talk to Dylan O'Brien, and there's a little bit of food like on a corner of her mouth, and he's like disgusted by it. He's just like, she's talking to him. All he can do is he's like staring at this piece of food or whatever. And so it's like stuff like that. It's like this is a little hard to watch, whatever. But it's just the scene plays out so well. The thing about eating at your desk, I think about that. I was like, how many times have I done that? Because it used to be, when I was working at Comic Vine or GameSpot, whatever you want to say, both iterations, I basically usually ate at my desk because you get more work done. And this is exactly what she's doing. She could go to the break room or whatever and eat there, but it's like, she's going to eat and she's going to do some work, and or stuff like that. But then you just have to think about it. If she's eating something like tuna fish, what does the tuna fish smell like? Are other people going to hear it or smell it and not hear it? They're not going to hear it. Are people going to smell it? Do they want to, So I kind of felt that. And it's just amazing now. There's reasons that, she's can help them survive, and I thought that was brilliant. But there's just a lot of they're just so wicked and mean, and it just I thought it was just all set up very nicely. And then you just look at it, it's like they kind of go back and forth. It's like, okay, can she trust him? Can he trust her? Because then things might get a little dark, and then. So as you're watching this, it's like, okay, this is one of the slightly different Sam Raimi movies, right? Okay, cool. It's grounded in reality versus there's the necromonica. I can't even say it right now. So this mystical book of the dead, and whatever. So it's like, okay, this is a credible story. They survived a plane crash. That was kind of intense. Okay, cool, but it's still it's believable, right? Everything's going, smooth. And then there's a point, she's a spoiler, not necessarily. She's trying to hunt a boar, and oh my gosh, this scene, it just, I was kind of like almost closing my eyes. And there's just like, there's a lot of blood, I'll just say it, and there's like other fluids, and it's just. There's a couple. I was like, okay, there we go. Sam Raimi's that's a Sam Raimi I know, and it's not. It's almost borderline over the top, but it's it makes sense, and I loved it, even though it's kind of disgusting. And there's some other parts which just like, it I can't even talk. It gets kind of dark, and the vibe switches, and then it switches back, and yeah, and just even the visuals, and like the being in the water and underwater, and just the plane crash was intense, and there's parts of the plane crash it's like wow. So this is why I love Sam Raimi, and how realistic is everything? I don't know. I'm not an expert on plane crashes or island survival or boar hunting or anything, but it's just kind of crazy. And then you just see like, wow, she is really amazing at doing all this stuff, and it kind of keeps going. And yeah, and Dylan O'Brien, man, he's like such a jerk. Oh, what's his name? Dennis Haysbert had a little role in the beginning too, so it was like cool to see him. But man, Dylan O'Brien, he's just you just look at this guy, and with his bros, his buddies, he wants to promote, and it's just like it's almost like nauseous, or makes you nauseous. It's just like so disgusting that this is how a lot of the business runs, and a lot of it is because like when he's like talking to her, he's like you don't even play golf, and what he meant by that is because you have to be a people person, so she can do all this amazing things with numbers, but can she do the small talk and make the back end deals by just just the talking and schmoozing, and so it's just like, yeah. I'm just glad I don't work in an office like that. So that's all I'll say. As far as the movie, let's see other things. It had a $40 million budget, and as of now, or open, let's see, I think the previews, it made like a couple $1 million. It's projected to make between $14 and $17 million. I mean, it's not going to be a box office smash, unfortunately, because Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams. I mean, they're both great, but I don't think they're necessarily box office. People are going, oh, I got to see the movie. I mean, they have their fans, but we'll have to see how this does. I hope it can pick up, and because even if there's 17 million. I don't know. So we'll see. But the other thing, which is kind of crazy, so on Rotten Tomatoes, the reviewers, the critics, that's what I'm looking for, 93% of the critics gave it a favorable review. And right now, this is based off of like 160 reviews. Audience popcorn meter, 90%. So 93%, 90%. Critics and audience are digging this movie. And I feel like it should have, a bigger box office than that. But I don't know. So it was really good. I don't even know. Let's see some of the critic stuff. Send Help isn't realistic, but its pleasures as a B movie made by an A+ entertainer are authentic nevertheless. Looking for fun and chance to scream, send for this hella horror comedy in which Rachel McAdams crashed, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. McAdams gives what just might be the best performance of her career in Sam Raimi's fantastically gory, darkly funny, and twisted-filled film. I guess I don't know if I'd say fantastically gory, maybe? I found it hard not to laugh at a scene involving projectile vomiting. Oh my gosh. So I didn't want to mention that, but there we go. But Raimi smartly wraps the story in a glossy mainstream package that can be inviting and reassuring. Some of the audience reviews. A new twist in Survivors on an Island. Another person. I really enjoyed it. Rachel McAdams did a great job. I didn't know if to love her or to be scared of her. And that's the other thing. When you're watching this, as when you get to a certain point in the movie, it's like, how is this going to end? Where is this going to end? Where can these two go from here? What's going to happen? What has to happen? What can't happen? And it's kind of it's kind of interesting with it, because I was like, I don't know, what is Sam Raimi going to give us? What kind of ending? What sort of happy ending? Can there be a happy ending? I'm not going to say anything, obviously, but you might be surprised, because it's like, and then it's like, are we rooting for Rachel McAdams? We are, right? But then it's like some of the stuff that she might do. It's like, wait, should we be rooting for her? Definitely don't want to root for Dylan O'Brien, but it's like, wait, huh? So that's the thing that I really enjoyed about it. It's just, it kind of really, like, wait a minute, what's going on? And yeah, it was good. So I really enjoyed that. I'm thinking about this, especially after last week, Return to Silent Hill. One thing I meant to mention in the news, and I shouldn't mention it now because I don't know if you listened to podcasts last week or whatever, but with Return to Silent Hill, I didn't really, I'm not going to get into spoilers or anything, but like the ending is like, what does this mean? How is this happening at the end? And, the whole movie, there's like such weird, bizarre things, whatever. But then there is I saw one of the actress in the movie, she explains the ending, like her take on it. And she's like, well, I think it means this, but it's like, that's not what many people are taking it. People aren't sure if it means this or if it means this. And she's saying it's this, but she doesn't even know, I don't think, necessarily, unless the writer, director, someone said, yeah, this is what's happening. But there's just like this vagueness, and it's just, that movie made me mad in a way. Sort of not that mad, but I was just bummed. But I'm happy for this movie. Is it even though it went, Sam Raimi, was excited. I was pleasantly surprised with it also. It was Sam Raimi, but I was like, okay, it's an island survival movie. Okay, we'll see. But yeah, it was great. It was entertaining, and you should definitely see it. Keep in mind, there will be a little gore and some projectile vomiting and some blood, but it's not. Even though Sam Raimi, it's not like a horror movie, but there's some suspense and some darkness. You should definitely watch it. It's because you could also watch it as, what would you do if you get stuck on a deserted island? You might learn something, which is why you got to watch those credits to see all the schematics, so you can learn how to make a raft or a bamboo hut or who knows what. But what I know is this is going to be the end of the show. That is going to be it. There's not much more I can say without spoiling things, but it was a great movie. So thank you for listening. Big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. We're currently doing look backs at DC Silver Age books. And so what did I do last week? Last week it was Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, and it was a cover that I'm sure you've seen, where Superman has a pitcher of water. Jimmy and Aquaman are like in the desert, they're dying of thirst, and Superman is basically taunting them, saying, one of you are going to die. And it's like, what? So stuff like that. And so I'll probably do an Off My Mind soon. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. What is going to be happening next week? I think I mentioned already. The Strangers Chapter 3. I am so excited for this. I love Madeline Petch. I think she cracks me up. I find her so funny, and she's such an expert screamer. And I hope we get some answers, because we are getting more into like the lore of like, who are these strangers? What is the deal? And I can't wait to see more. Or see more of the story, the conclusion. I'm sad that this is the last one, but we have that. And then we'll have more Wonder Man, more Fallout, more Hijack, and comics and news. So that is going to be it. So thank you for listening. I hope you are doing well. I hope you are taking care of yourself. I'm going to have some crazy things too. I got some meetings and whatever stuff going on. But I hope you're finding time to do fun things. And I hope you remember, be good to each other.